The Framingham School Committee consists of 9 members elected from each city district for a 2-year term. The mayor serves as an ex officio member by virtue of office and only votes to break a tie vote. The school committee adopts and oversees the administration of an annual operating budget for the school department, appoints a superintendent of the schools, and works to make all reasonable rules and regulations for the management of the public school system. The following school committee meeting coverage is brought to you by the Government Channel, a service of the City of Framingham.
Welcome to the Framingham School Committee meeting of Wednesday, January 21st, 2026. I call this meeting to order at 7:06 p.m. School committee meetings provide American Sign Language, Spanish, and Portuguese interpretation via Zoom. You can find the instructions on how to access live interpretation on the agenda on the school committee's website and when you register via Zoom. A reminder to members and all in attendance to speak slowly to allow time for interpretation, as well as speak into the microphones, otherwise those on Zoom cannot hear those in the room. In attendance tonight, we have District 1, Rich Robles, District 2, Lorena Tovar, District 3, Jen Moshe, District 4, Adam Freudberg, District 5, Judy Steyer, District 6, Brent Lewis, District 7, Kyle Shepard, District 8, Jessica Barnhill, District 9, William Labarge. Student Advisory Chair, Deborah Davatoria. Superintendent, Dr. Tremblay. Executive Director of Finance and Operations, Lincoln and Lynch. Assistant Superintendent of Pre-K-12 Education, Ann Ludis. Mayor Sisitsky is unable to attend tonight's meeting. The meeting is live on the Government Channel and can be viewed live on Facebook on the Framingham Public Schools Facebook page. A recording of this meeting will be archived on the City of Framingham and School Committee's website as soon as possible. Meeting materials can be accessed on the committee's webpage with tonight's meeting date. Members of the public can participate via Zoom, specifically during public comment. To join the meeting for public comment portion, join through Zoom or by calling the number located on the agenda, 1-305-224-1968, and webinar ID 845-4347-2637. Tonight's agenda includes public comment, announcements from the chair, student advisory committee remarks, superintendent's update, assistant superintendent for pre-K-12 education update, discussion and vote on the FHS program of studies, executive director of finance and operations update, rules and administration subcommittee presentation and vote, appointment of warrant signers, vote to appoint 1 school committee member to a vacant seat on the school building committee, subcommittee reports including finance and operations, approval of gifts and minutes, adjournment. That brings us to public comment. At every regularly scheduled school committee meeting, we reserve 15 minutes for members of the public who may wish to speak on a topic within the school committee's purview. Guidelines for public comment are located on the school committee's website. All comments will be accepted as advice to the school committee, but may not be responded to tonight. If you request follow-up, provide your contact information and indicate in your remarks if you would like follow-up. If the matter is in the school committee's purview, we will respond. If in the superintendent's, he or his office will. If you're participating via Zoom, you can utilize the raise hand feature and participate via audio. If by phone, press *9 if you would like to speak during the public comment portion. Again, call-in number 305-224-1968, webinar ID 845-4347-2637. Remarks including any personal attacks to anyone, including members of the administration or members of the school committee, will not be tolerated. I did mention that we reserve 15 minutes for public comment. Seeing the extensive list of people, we're going to extend that. I'm going to extend that so we can hear. We're here to listen to you tonight. period. However, we're going to go from 3 minutes to 2 minutes, so if you have prepared marks, if you don't mind trimming them down so we can hear from more people. I'm also going to be alternating in person and remote, so I'll give our people on Zoom, if you get your hand up, I will alternate. I'll call on Zoom, people on Zoom, and then also people in person, okay? We'll start with in person. I'm going to give you just a gentle reminder at the end. If at the end you could just wrap up your final comments. I know some of you have probably longer statements prepared, but we do have quite a long list of people signed up, and we want to make sure we hear from as many as possible, okay? First up, Jessica McGettrick, in person.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. I'm going to start your clock.
Thank you very much. Good evening. My name is Jessica McGettrick. I'm a resident of District 4. I'm an alumna of the Framingham Public Schools, a middle school theater educator in another district, but most importantly, a parent of 2 students actively involved in the performing arts programs in the Framingham Public Schools. Both of my children have found their people and their home in the theater and music communities in their schools. Middle school theater and music programs create community. It's a phrase we hear often, but I cannot overstate its impact. These programs don't just serve some students, they shape the school culture for all. These programs influence how students collaborate, how they treat one another, how they show up in classrooms and hallways. When people learn that I'm a middle school theater educator, the 2 most common responses I hear are, "Bless you," and "Are you crazy?" But let's be honest, middle school is tough. Being a kid today is hard enough. Middle school performing arts programs create spaces where students don't just survive, they truly thrive. These programs are about seeing kids, really seeing them, and offering opportunities to belong, finding their place in a crowded hallway, a crowded school, and a crowded world. That is social emotional learning in action. Any reduction in middle school performing arts education staffing is unconscionable. You cannot divide presence, relationships, mentorship, and trust into fractions and pretend that what remains is whole. Shared staffing means fewer students seen, fewer students served, fewer students finding the place in their lives where they feel competent, connected, and valued. It creates inequitable access where a student's experience depends on which building they attend rather than what they deserve. And this is not just about theater or music. It's about whether we believe middle school students deserve adults who know their names, know their stories, and are fully embedded in their school communities. Diluting these positions further is not efficiency, it is erosion. As a parent, I can plainly say that these programs have changed my students' lives. They gave them belonging at a moment they needed it most, and I know they're doing the same for students across this district right now. I urge this committee to reconsider these proposed cuts and to protect full, dedicated middle school performing arts positions in every building and to choose investment over inequity.
Thank you. That's time.
Thank you.
All right, next up we have Devin Hannigan, hand raised. I've hit allowed to talk. Give me a quick sound check and we'll start the clock.
Can you hear me?
I can, yeah. Welcome.
Great. Thank you. I'm a resident of District 2. I'd like to address conversations in our community about possible reductions to middle school drama and chorus programming and why these programs are not extras but essential supports for students during a critical stage of development. I'm speaking tonight as both a Framingham parent and a practicing school psychologist who works daily with middle and high school age students. Watching my daughter participate in chorus, drama, and band at Cameron Middle School has shown me what these programs provide, especially for students who may not otherwise have meaningful ways to connect or feel a sense of belonging. For many children, these programs are where they find their people, their voice, and a reason to feel connected to school. Middle school is a critical window for intervention. In my professional work, I see the effects of the adolescent mental health crisis every day. Students are increasingly retreating into screens and social media, and once they lose authentic face-to-face connections, it becomes extraordinarily difficult to help them re-engage in the real world. Prevention matters, and it needs to happen early. Drama and chorus are prevention in action. They require collaboration, emotional vulnerability, accountability, and sustained focus. The opposite of the digital world. These programs build confidence that carries into academics, peer relationships, and a willingness to take healthy risks. I have seen this growth firsthand with my own child. I've watched Cameron Middle School's performing arts programs in action, both on and off the stage. The environments our educators create foster connection and belonging for students who may not otherwise experience it. These programs are powerful protective factors at a time when students need them most. Framingham Public Schools is widely known for its strong performing arts programs, with audiences coming from near and far to see student performances. That reputation is built over time, often beginning in the middle schools.
That's time.
Weakening drama.
Thank you. All right, up next, Sharon Doucette. Sorry, the 2 minutes goes by really fast. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Sharon Doucette, District 3, Walsh Theater Arts educator and proud parent of a Framingham Public School graduate. I'm here tonight regarding the proposed budget cuts and to speak on behalf of programs that do not always show up neatly on a spreadsheet, but whose impact is lifelong, especially the middle school level, specifically, but not limited to, theater and chorus. Middle school is a threshold, a pivotal moment when students begin to discover who they are, where they belong, and where their voices truly matter. For many, it is not just a phase of education, but a lifeline that sustains their growth, confidence, and sense of self. These programs teach students how to listen, how to collaborate, how to stand in front of others with confidence and say, I am here. They teach discipline, showing up on time, being accountable to a group, participating even when it's hard. They teach empathy by asking students to step into someone else's story and to understand perspectives different from their own. These are not soft skills, these are human skills. In a world of growing artificial intelligence, human connection becomes paramount. For some students, our classrooms are their safe space, the room where a shy student finds their voice, where a struggling student finds success, where a child who doesn't fit neatly into academic boxes discovers that they matter, their talent has worth, they are seen. Defunding these programs is telling these students that their voices are expendable. And when these programs disappear at the middle school level, their loss echoes up. High school programs weaken. The true value of education is about preparing young people for life and how to work with others and communicate, how to persevere, how to feel deeply and think critically, and we do this every single day. I caution you, these cuts are not small, they are butterfly wings. Their effect will ripple onward for years, quietly altering the paths of our most creative thinkers, our boldest problem solvers, and our most empathetic leaders. These programs that took decades to build, once diminished, do not easily return, and the students who need them most will have already left our buildings. True, it may be nice that this proposal allows some, excuse me.
Final comment.
Sorry, that these, it is true, it may be nice that this proposal allows some version of these programs to remain, but reduction is not preservation, it is a placeholder. And that might be nice, but nice is different than good.
Thank you. Up next, Herb Jason, online. Can you give me a quick sound check before I start your clock?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, loud and clear.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. Herb Jason. There is a simple, straightforward, responsible solution to this crisis without massive layoffs. Framingham has taxed below the 2.5 levy limit for years. That means the city has unused levy capacity. We can raise the levy over 2.5% without an override and solve the problem. No layoffs, please. So let the mayor do the responsible thing and raise the levy. Problem solved. No layoffs. Even with such a tax increase, the average Framingham homeowner would still pay less in property taxes than residents of many comparable towns. Towns that have chosen to protect their schools instead of hollowing them out. When schools are perceived as declining, families leave, home values stagnate, and everyone pays the price. So please, I urge the school committee, please stand tall, advocate for the teachers, advocate for the kids, Advocate for every resident who depends directly or indirectly on a high-quality public school system. Framingham can easily afford good schools. Again, let the mayor do the responsible thing, raise the tax levy.
Thank you.
Finally, please vote no to the layoffs. Thank you.
All right, next up, Alana Weiner. Alana? Oh, Alana Megan. Good.
Is that good? You heard
Good
the whole
evening. We
thing?
are both Framingham residents and teachers in the Framingham Public Schools. I am Megan Surprise, a resident of District 5, Stapleton parent of 2 boys, and the reading teacher at McCarthy, where I previously taught first grade.
I'm a resident of District 9, parent of 2 daughters who will attend the Framingham Public Schools, language development coach at McCarthy, and former classroom teacher at Hemingway. I have been teaching in the district for a decade.
We are here tonight to respectfully implore you to vote against sending the current budget proposal to the City Council and instead urge them to increase the city's financial contribution to the public school system. The school district is facing a multi-million-dollar deficit for the 3rd consecutive year, and it is increasingly clear that the current levels of local funding are not sufficient to meet the needs of our students and sustain the quality education they deserve. At present, the city is relying heavily on federal and state funding, particularly Chapter 70 funding through the Student Opportunity Act, SOA, to support the school department. While SOA funding has been critical, it was never intended to replace core local funding. Its purpose is to supplement municipal investments and help close long-standing opportunity gaps, especially for our most vulnerable students. In Framingham, however, SOA funds have effectively become the primary funding source for the school department rather than an enhancement to a strong local commitment.
As a result, the school district has been forced to cut teacher and staff positions. These reductions at all levels directly impact students and disproportionately affect those who already face barriers to success, further widening the opportunity gap that the SOA was designed to help close. As just one example, the current district instructional priority states that, quote, all educators will create and deliver targeted lessons that leverage high-quality instructional materials and are tailored to the student profiles of emergent bilinguals, specifically those that are dually identified. Educators will align language objectives with the key forms, functions, and features from the WIDA English Language Development Framework 2020 of the content standards, ensuring that students have the support needed to access and master grade level expectations. Language development is a significant part of this instructional priority, yet this year we have 2 language development coaches who are split between 2 schools due to the reductions that were made last spring. This means that at 4 out of 9 elementary schools, there's now less support for students who are learning English as an additional language and their teachers. Based on the email we received last night listing the proposed cuts for next year, 12 ESL teachers will be cut. This is in direct opposition to the instructional priority. Continuing to eliminate positions is not a sustainable path forward and will no doubt further impede progress.
Strong public schools are one of the most important indicators of a city's overall success and long-term stability. They attract families and businesses, strengthen the local workforce, and help ensure that every child has the support needed to succeed. Continued underfunding is putting Framingham's future at risk.
The city has the power to address this current deficit. Framingham maintains certified free cash at 5.78%, above the generally accepted healthy level of 5%. In addition, the stabilization fund, or rainy day fund, stands at 8%, well above the same benchmark.
That's time. Final comment, final wrap-up.
Okay. These resources could be used responsibly to mitigate the immediate crisis while the city develops a longer-term solution. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Give me a minute. Catherine Smith, you're up next online. Just quick sound check and I'll start the clock.
Can you hear me?
We can, yes.
Good evening. My name is Catherine Smith, and I am a co-chair of Framingham's Special Education Parent Advisory Council, also known as CPAC. We appreciate the mid-year FY26 financial update presented to the school committee and recognize the complexity of managing the district's budget. The memo also highlights how limited the remaining financial flexibility is, particularly given the ongoing and legally required costs associated with special education. As the committee also discusses an anticipated $8 million shortfall for FY27, we believe it is important to view these conversations together. Our organization is deeply concerned regarding the impact of the proposed staffing cuts. These reductions would directly impact students who rely on consistent, specialized support to access their education and succeed academically and socially. These supports are not optional. They are required to ensure students receive a free and appropriate public education and to allow them to make effective progress. Protecting special education services is essential to ensuring equity, inclusion, and the well-being of our most vulnerable learners. We urge an increase in city funding for the school budget because strong schools are essential to a thriving community. Adequate funding ensures that students receive the supports they need, educators have the resources to do their jobs effectively, and schools can meet growing and diverse needs. Investing in our schools is an investment in Framingham's future. Thank you.
Perfect. Next, we have Kim Lee Manuel. Yeah, sorry. Thanks. Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Kim Lee Manuel, and I'm an ELA teacher at Fuller Middle School. Having heard of the proposed significant reduction to the district's funding and the ways in which those changes would impact this and future generations of students and the community, I am here to ask the school committee to carefully consider the complex negative effects of and reject the proposed budget in order to support this community's education and investing in our students. I understand that budgets are complex and nuanced. We all understand the importance of making assessments and balancing budgets. But as a result, I am humbly asking you to keep the following as touchstones as you move through this challenging process. What is best for our students, and how do we give them what they need to be successful? Do we want better for our students when some of them are dealing with hidden and silent trauma so horrific I cannot imagine the magnitude and the sheer struggle to get to school each day? Our students need not only the current, but in many cases, additional resources in order to become healthy and successful contributing members of society. Consider this. In my professional opinion, going along with the proposed budget would mean a disruption of education to our students by removing educators from our schools, a disruption that will have long-lasting implications for our students. It means disruptions to the talented, dedicated, and creative professionals who have painstakingly established deeply authentic and meaningful connections with our students, and the years of students who have flourished as a result. Going along with this proposed budget would mean ignoring the bigger picture. The city has the funds, and this option will be hurting the students, the families, and professionals who will live the reality of this decision. That being said, one of my favorite parts of teaching middle school is teaching and encouraging students to advocate for themselves. To teach students to use their words and be successful is a beautiful thing. I am here tonight using my words to advocate not only for our amazing students, but for the professionals who teach, support, encourage, and love them. I am here advocating for the greater Framingham community that benefits from their poise, conviction, and betterment. I am here tonight asking you to reject this budget and work collaboratively and creatively for one that does not erode or jeopardize the quality of education or educators in Framingham.
Thanks.
I am here tonight asking you to use your words and advocate for us. Thank you.
Next up, we have phone number ending 6252. Can you give us a quick sound check, and I'll start the clock.
Madam Moderator, can you hear me?
If you could speak up a little bit more, it'd come in a little bit louder.
Madam Moderator, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. You got a great crowd there tonight. People of Framingham love the teachers. I'm just wondering what they're willing to give up if they have to. School districts all across Massachusetts in budget deficits with budget-busting problems of their own. Each community struggling with the budget process jigsaw impacts. You don't need to be a weatherman to know which way the wind is blowing. It's an ill wind that blows no good. As the cities and towns await the state's FY27 spending budget. The state administration has decided to fight with the Trump administration, leaving the Bay State exposed to D.C. shortfalls and holdbacks of funds. The governor would rather fight versus do what's right for the people of Massachusetts. We, all of us, will not be in a winning position as a result. And this will not end well. People of Massachusetts also have their own family household, children busting, budget busting from A to Z problems that they're dealing with, and it's getting worse in Massachusetts in particular. Framingham's interim plan will be to implement a hiring and spending freeze, identify areas of reduced or consolidated functions, define any and all non-essential programs, review health insurance co-pays, modifying temporarily as necessary, along with COLAs, lanes, and steps.
That's time, Mr. Bloomfield.
Yes, well, I wish you all luck, but there's a lot to this, and we do love our teachers, so don't forget that.
Thank you. Addie Price is next. Welcome.
Hi, my name is Addie Price, and I live in Framingham, and I am an ESL teacher at Fuller Middle School. And I'm speaking today because these cuts are not just numbers. I am one of the teachers who will likely lose my job if you accept these cuts. The teachers and staff I work with at Fuller know that the special sauce that supports our students doesn't come from textbooks or the data modern day education loves. Our success comes from having teachers that can communicate with our families. Our success comes from having teachers to support our students by meeting them where they are, enough teachers to support our students by meeting them where they are, and providing them with the scaffolds that they so desperately need. Unfortunately, it seems that politicians and other powers that be in Framingham might not understand that. And make no mistake, when I speak about powers that be, I am speaking about you. You can decide whether my colleagues and I can continue to give ourselves to our students, whether we can continue to be a safe place that bridges the gap to bring education, love, and support to our students and their families. I urge you to not accept these cuts because what we do is more important than just a Band-Aid fix that would meet budget requirements for next year, but leave our students hanging out to dry for years to come. This so-called solution that is being proposed would have negative effects for years for Framingham Public Schools data, test reports, performance records, etc., but more importantly, it would have negative effects for the children that rely on the services we have promised them. You cannot undo this. Even if you bring the budget back a year from now, the damage and holes that this would create in students' education will already be done. Not to mention, I would have already lost my job. People are talking a lot about our lower enrollment numbers. Ask any of my colleagues over there about whether we feel less busy today than we did last year. I promise you, we don't. Ask us if our students need less support this year than last year.
That's time.
No.
Would you like to final wrap up?
If we need less time differentiating lesson plans or creating accessible materials for our students this year than last year, again, no. That's a definite, or if we spend less time worrying about our students' literal safety while supposedly off the clock at home with our families this year than we did last year, again, that's a definite no. Our students need us, and I urge you as the people who can determine the outcome for Framingham Public Schools and the students we serve to let my colleagues and I keep our jobs. Let us be there for our students by saying no to these budget cuts. Thank you for your time.
All right, up next online we have Melina List. If you just give us a quick sound check and I'll start your clock.
Hello, is my audio okay?
Yep, we're good. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you. My name is Melina List. I'm a resident of Framingham in District 4, and I did most of my education in the Framingham Public Schools. Like many who are here tonight to advocate for the middle school theater program, I just quickly need to say that the Walsh Middle School Theater program was a lifeline for me. I'm not being hyperbolic when I say I do not know how I would have gotten through middle school without that program. Hi, Mrs. Doucette, if you're still there. About 15 years ago, when I was a student at Dunning Elementary School, we faced program cuts similar to some of the cuts that are being discussed in this budget proposal. Our library program was cut from full-time to part-time, and our in-house band program was fully cut, and we had some attempted replacement. But I can tell you, beyond the quantitative impacts of these cuts, when these programs are lost, students feel like they are not valued. I remember feeling like I was unimportant because of how these cuts affected me and my friends. In my entire educational experience, from kindergarten through college, students can always tell when their programs and their teachers aren't being supported. I am particularly concerned about the proposed cuts of all the campus aid positions and the classroom aid positions. They are not talked about enough, but I sincerely worry about the function of the schools and the well-being of our students with all the proposed position cuts. I know that we're in a tough situation, but I am asking you all on the committee to put pressure on the city for more financial contributions to the schools, because firing over 100 people, that is unacceptable. That is an unacceptable solution to this problem. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Up next, Jonna Rubin.
Hi everyone.
Welcome.
I'm Jonna Rubin. I'm in District 8. I have 3 kids at every single level of Framingham Public Schools, and I am also the president of Fuller PTO. One of the things that's missing here is acknowledging how we got here. And how we got here is by devaluing people who look different from us, who are different from us, and who just don't fit the mold of what people expect in school. We got here because people in our community, immigrants, people of color, were afraid to come here to go to school. So it was particularly shocking to me when I looked down the list of the proposed cuts and I saw almost nearly every cut hit a different vulnerable population. I was gobsmacked, to be completely honest with you. Looking at ESL students, special education, restorative justice workers, every single vulnerable population that you could possibly hit was right up there on that list, #1, front and center. And is that really who we are? Our priorities tell us who we are, and that list did not reflect a community that I was proud to live in. Cutting those positions, cutting that funding did not reflect a community that I wanted to be a part of. I was embarrassed. I was disgusted. I couldn't believe that we decided that theater was optional for 2 schools when we all know that that's the place where kids go to feel the safest. And I would urge everyone to reject this proposal, send it back to City Council, get more money, but in the strange situation where we actually do have to make those cuts, please take a look at who those people are and who they affect. Because it's all the wrong kids that you want to disenfranchise right now. It's embarrassing, it's shameful. We cut DEI. Cutting DEI is how we got in this spot in the first place. We cut on that list. I saw 2 black educators on that list. Do you think we have a surplus of those in this district? Because we sure don't. Representation matters. All of those positions matter. Look at who you're cutting. Don't just look at cutting the positions, but look at who you're cutting and who that impacts. I think that's enough. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonna. All right, up next we have Jeffrey Epstein. I will unmute. Give us a quick sound check. We'll start your clock.
Okay, how's that?
If you
hear
could
me?
speak a little bit louder, I think you'd come in a little bit better.
Okay, great. How's that?
Good.
That good? Great. Okay, thanks for having me. Jeff Epstein, former school committee member. It's awesome that so many people are here, and I'm glad to be in the company. What matters most to a city is its schools and its students. Education is a city cornerstone, and the mission of the school committee is to support students and teachers. The mission is not to fold to financial pressure from the mayor. In the last 4 years, the city financial position improved by $50 million. Where did that come from? Well, a whole lot of Student Opportunity Act money flowed into the city, and the city decided to drop its local support for education to the tune of at least $18 million. So you, the school system, gave the city $18 million in the last 4 years. I would say you should start asking for that back. What was the problem that happened when that was transferred to the city? Students were neglected. They came out of COVID, low income, special needs, and ESL students got punished in COVID, and then they got punished because the Student Opportunity Act missed them, because the city took a whole bunch of it. So grades are declining. 100 experienced teachers left last year and the year before, and it's planned for this current fiscal 27. So the last thing to do to a school system which gave $18 million back to the city is to cut when student performance is declining and experienced teachers are leaving. Hold firm to a good solution for students and teachers, and let the city and the city council, the mayor and the city council, figure out the dollars. Your job is to defend students and the school system here. Otherwise, we will have a really, really damaged school system. Thank you.
Next up, Elena Portillo. Are you coming up with this group? Yes. Elena, Seneca, Emerson. Okay, welcome.
Dear school committee members, you've heard from adults and faculty, but not yet students. Our names are Sonika Agarwal and Elena Portillo. We're both freshman members of the Framingham High School Drama Company and recent alumni of the SAGE program. We're both very concerned about the proposed reductions and cuts to the middle school chorus and theater programs. For example, chorus and theater aren't just extracurriculars for some. They're ways to connect to the school and to community. In middle school, we were always encouraged to express ourselves, and for some, that expression is done through sports, clubs, choir, theater, and more. Middle school is where students find their true selves, where they find out what they're interested in. For me and many others, that's theater. Doing theater in middle school was always a way that students could find their own community outside of the stress of homework and studying. By eradicating these students' communities, you're also eradicating their sole form of expression and of joy.
Middle school is a critical time to choose your passions or be a part of a supportive group that supports the exploration of different passions. Our experiences in middle school chorus and theater were ways to express ourselves through our art. Additionally, cutting ESL, SAGE, and DEI will have long-lasting impacts on the student experience. We are asking you all, our district leadership, to come up with a better way than cutting funding. It is also disappointing that you talk about this number, the nearly $8 million, as if it was not our friends and classmates who have left or been pushed out of the district. There are empty seats in many classrooms, and their stories matter. In a time of social unrest, we must do what is right. In both these situations, please remember our shared humanity when you make decisions that impact our education and future.
Dear Framingham citizens, my name is Emerson Xavier and I'm a student of Framingham High School. I am also a proud member of Framingham High School Drama Company. I am here with deep sorrow to talk about the situation of performing arts in our middle schools. Furthermore, I want to highlight how having variety and choices in school subjects can affect the students' performance and how they can reach success. It's not a secret that our community is deeply diverse in culture, gathering people from all around the globe. And I, as a fellow student and citizen of this beautiful city, am proud to say that I am from Framingham. Our community also values education and prioritizes the future of our country, which is the young minds of learners such as myself. Just like our community, our schools are also very diverse in people and in subjects, which helps students have a wider choice of what they want for their future. However, cutting classes or extracurriculars activities in middle school, such as chorus, ESL, program, and drama companies, is absurd because it does not allow the students to express their talent or experiment with new things, or even learn a new language. I can speak from my own experience that theater and chorus offered me a way to be more active in my school and keep my mind occupied. Theater and chorus in our community reflects the values of diversity that we have here in Framingham. When you see people from all over the place standing on the stage singing, acting, giving a speech, or just introducing a song, it inspires people, and it shows how our community values education and diversity. If these if these classes and extracurriculars are cut from middle schools, all of these individuals' hard work for representation for LGBTQIA+ people and people of color will be for nothing. I also believe if this cut does happen, it will not end there. I truly believe that it will go beyond in just theater, ESL, and chorus classes. It will lead to further cuts for other classes just as important, such as ceramics, art, photography, band, orchestra, and more. All I ask for is that we do not let go of our values of diversity and the students still have multiple options of classes in our curriculum. Therefore, no matter what class, if you're learning a new skill that contributes to life, it's an important class. Thank you.
Next up, we have Rhonda Yeamans.
Hi, I'm Rhonda Yeomans. I've lived in Framingham since '91. I'm a retired clinical psychologist, and I worked with both adults and children. I think it's really important for us to remember that the creative arts are hugely important to people's mental health, and allowing children to have creative activities. As someone said earlier, it teaches them empathy, which a lot of adults seem to be missing these days. It's so important to have that emotional IQ, the social IQ, of understanding another person's perspective. Also, fear of public speaking is like the #1 fear among American adults, I believe, or one of the top fears. And having an early experience with public speaking can really help people get over that. And public speaking is a skill you're going to use throughout your life, whether it's asserting yourself with a garage mechanic or, running for office. Or in business, or there's so many opportunities for public speaking. So I don't think we should underestimate that. Also, I think in general, the Framingham teachers are some of the most dedicated, generous people I know. And God knows I don't have the courage to spend my day in a room full of small children. So I don't think many of us do. So we need to not underestimate what it takes to have that job. And they do a great job, and our children benefit. And then we need to think about what is the consequence if we cut all these positions. What is going to happen to those kids? Kids that do not receive a quality education oftentimes are at high risk to get into criminal activity. And are we going to wind up paying on the other side of the equation? If we don't invest in our schools, we're going to wind up investing in jails and prisons. And is that really the best thing for our city? Also, if you just don't give a care about the kids or the town, how about your home values? Property values go down when school quality goes down. And if you're a homeowner and you want your house to retain its value, you need to support investing in the schools. And frankly, over the last few years, as we have lost funding for the schools, school grades have gone down, scores have gone down. And that impacts home values. If it hasn't impacted yet, it will.
Thank you. All right, in person we have Meenakshi Verna. Welcome.
I'm Meenakshi Verma Agarwal, and I'm here representing District 2 and Framingham Families for Racial Equity in Education, also known as FREE. We've been advocating for families in this district since 2016, starting when our kids were in kindergarten, and now they're in high school, here advocating with us. Today, we are here to protest the proposed budget cuts and express to you that they will have a disproportionate impact on families of color, families of kids with special needs, and families who do not speak English as their primary language. This is a student access and learning issue. It's not an ideology. Cuts to middle school and theater have been talked about. I want to speak to the broader cuts to campus aides, ESL teachers, and SAGE. As a person who came to this country at the age of 5, not knowing any English, I can say that ESL programs propelled me to the position that I am in now. At a time when we need to lean in and support our campus aides, who are arguably the most diverse workforce in our district, you are proposing to cut them. The very people who make our children of color feel a sense of belonging will be eliminated. SAGE also provides programming for children to be creative and critical in their research. Side programs like Thayer and the Evening Academy get included for budget cuts, but not for college fairs or job fairs. So there's a disproportionate impact happening here across the vulnerable populations. Finally, I'd like to speak to DEI. As I've made it clear repeatedly in the space and through communication with all of you, the Tremblay administration has a cited pattern of discrimination that has resulted in several expensive discrimination lawsuits against the district with zero change in work culture or reflection into what is causing it. We do not know how much of the budget is being taken up with these lawsuits, and the school committee is also implicated in this because you have been ignoring the voices of community who've been telling you to see these changes in DEI that are happening both in our local district as well as across the nation. DEI is needed now more than ever, and we need bold leaders to speak up for it. And if we do not have DEI specialists in our school, the long-term effects of the kind of community we create will be similar to what is happening now at the national level.
That's 2 minutes, please final.
From a hiring and retention perspective, I just want to say it's extremely short-sighted and reactive to say, oh, this is temporary and we'll hire them back. Any person who's hired someone knows the amount of care, patience, investment of time, and knowledge that it takes to bring someone onto a team. So this is not an object that you can return to the store. It's a person, a family, and a relationship. It's not a number. This is your chance to be a real leader and stand up for your employees and students. Please do it. The next generation of students are counting on it.
All right, online we have Leslie Aubie. That's actually me, but I didn't know how to add my name to the list. Oh, yeah, sure.
I do not have something planned. This was all very last minute that I heard about all of this. I am a mother of 2 daughters in Framingham Public Schools, one in kindergarten, one in 4th grade. My 4th grader is in the SAGE program as well as the volunteer drama program that we have at Barberry by our awesome Miss Mowens. I just want to support that everything everyone has said, that reductions to these programs is absolutely unacceptable for our students. My daughter, who is in SAGE, constantly tells me that her brain works differently than others. She doesn't feel that she fits in a lot of the time. Sorry. And she says that SAGE is one of the only times where she feels truly understood by both the teachers and the students who are in that program. So we talk about the mental health crisis for students. This is a population that needs to be looked at, and I believe SAGE being once a week for I don't know how long, an hour, is not even acceptable to begin with, and then we're talking about making cuts to that. That's all I really have to say, is that I just agree with everything everyone has said, and that we really need to not allow this to happen.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, next online person, unless they're in here too, Avi Varsos. Can you give us a quick sound check?
Hi, can you hear me?
We can, yep, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Abby Varsos, and I am the current chorus and music appreciation teacher at Cameron Middle School. A lot has been said about protecting the arts, which is so beautiful to see so many people coming out to support. I think the thing I'm most afraid of is administration and the school committee turning and looking at all of us and saying, well, we didn't propose any programming cuts. It says everywhere we're cutting personnel, but not programming. I think it's a bold assumption to assume that 115 less people are going to pull off the same job. A teacher earlier mentioned that our job hasn't gotten any easier, and I can reiterate that. In the performing arts in particular, our job stretches for hours outside of the school day as well to be able to present performances to the community, as well as outreach to the community in general. I need it to be said that there is no way you can reduce this level of personnel without needing to alter programming. The bottom line can't be there won't be any changes to student experience with 115 less staff. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Lindsay Stevenson.
Hi, how is everyone?
I'm just going to start off to say, hi, I'm a mom. I'm not a special education. I have no extracurricular knowledge or anything, but I just wanted to engage because we've all been sitting here for a while and we're all hearing a lot of the very same things. And I had this speech that I had nailed down to 3 minutes. It was actually 2 minutes and 57 seconds, but I'm throwing it out the window because you have all heard all of the different arguments over and over again. And if they haven't sunk in already, I just want to take a second just to reiterate how amazing and impactful theater is. For me, it's a theater, but it's DEI, it's SAGE, it's all of these programs. I just keep hearing things and I'm like, oh yeah, that too. So, taking a deep breath, everyone just wake up for a second and let's go. My main concern when I came here today was to talk about the elimination or the combining of programs across the different middle schools, because if there's not enough people to teach the programs can't exist without people, and that's a problem. Speaking personally, I have 11-year-old twins. They will be going to middle school next year. My daughter found her first acting experience in Finding Nemo in Dunning last year, and that was amazing for her. It helped her find her people. Like she never had her people before, and they are them. She was able to do that, and that opened up and gave her the confidence in order to go and audition for the Framingham High School musical Frozen, which was an amazing experience. She loved it. Every minute of that role and that performance just blew her mind, and it made her into this new human that I am like so proud to be her mom. So that being said, my son also did the backstage work for Nemo. That's a whole other aspect. It's hands-on. It's learning to work with responsibility, learning the timing on props and such like that. And that made such a difference for him, and it gave him a whole new appreciation for the theatrical world.
It's 2 minutes. Please wrap up.
All right. So,
I hate this more than
just
you.
going to say, this, to me, is not about balancing a budget. It's about the kind of school system we choose to be. I urge you to protect the middle school theater and choral education as essential components of a well-rounded, equitable education. Thank you for your time. I know this is a lot for all of you to take in. I appreciate the hard decisions and hope you side with us.
All right, next up, I don't think anyone else is online. Okay, next up, Tiffany Maskell. Welcome. And just a quick announcement, the mayor will be joining us in progress. Welcome.
Thank you. Tiffany Maskell, District 7, recently left school committee member. Good evening, members of the school committee, superintendent, and members of our community. After 8 years of serving on this committee, I can see without hesitation that this is the most difficult budget year I've ever seen. I understand the financial pressures we're facing, but I'm truly deeply concerned about how these proposed cuts will impact our students. When we reduce programs at the elementary and middle school level, the impact doesn't stop there. It creates a triple up effect that reaches our high school programs and affects student success across the district. We've seen this before. Years ago, when 5th grade band was cut, the full impact wasn't immediately seen. But 4 years later, our band and marching band was affected because fewer students came in with skills and experience needed to sustain the program. A small cut turned into a major loss. Now we're seeing proposed reductions to middle school chorus, drama, SAGE, ESL, special education supports, health and intervention services. These are not extras. These programs support the whole child, academically, socially, and emotionally. SAGE provides enrichment and academic challenge. ESL supports our multilingual learners. Special education and intervention staff ensure students receive the services that are legally and ethically entitled to. Arts programs give students a place to belong. When staffing is reduced, it affects everything: class size, access, after-school opportunities, student engagement, and overall climate. I'm asking this committee to fight the city for the funding our students deserve. Advocate loudly, persistently, and publicly. Our children should not be the ones paying the price for budget shortfalls. Thank you.
All right, up next we have Chris Mulroney.
Sorry, thank you. It's Chris Marnie, FDA President. I want to respond to comments the mayor made at the last school committee meeting when asked why the city cannot close the school funding gap with the resources it has. The FDA respectfully disagrees with the suggestion that those raising concerns have failed to identify where capacity exists. The data is clear and has been publicly presented. First, while it may be technically accurate to say these reductions are being made to an increase rather than the existing FY26 budget, the distinction does not lessen the impact on students. While rising costs, contractual salaries, special education, utilities, and the loss of federal grants are not fully funded, the outcome is the same: millions of dollars in staffing reductions and fewer adults serving students. Calling these cuts to an increase does not change the classroom reality. Second, the challenge is not due to a lack of money. Over the past 5 years, Framingham has received approximately $35 million in additional Chapter 70 funding, while the local contributions have lagged. Of the roughly $47 million increase in education spending since FY20, only about $12 million came from local sources. That reflects a long-term policy change inconsistent with the intent of the Student Opportunity Act. Third, the city is in strong financial health. Free cash and stabilization reserves total over $40 million, both near 6% of the operating budget. Framingham is also under levying with more than $41 million in excess levy capacities. These facts demonstrate capacity, even if leaders disagree about how to use it. Finally, educators reject the implication that staff would prefer cuts over contributing more to health care. Shifting rising costs onto workers while cutting staff harms students and destabilizes schools. City Council may have the final authority, but the school committee and the mayor must clearly state what funding is educationally necessary, not what just is politically comfortable.
It's time, Ms. Mulroney.
These issues are not whether money exists, but whether the public education is being prioritized. Framingham has the capacity to avoid devastating staffing cuts. Students should not pay the price for long-standing local underinvestment. Thank you.
Thank you. Alicia Goodwin is up next in person, followed by Jessica Neal. Alicia Goodwin.
Hi, my name is Alicia Goodwin, and I am the ESL Bilingual Department Chair for Fuller, Cameron, and Walsh Middle Schools. I have been working in Framingham for nearly a decade, and one of the primary reasons I have dedicated my time, love, and commitment to teaching here is because I cherish our perseverance, our diversity, and our culture. In Framingham, we advocate for our students and our staff. We lead the way for other districts statewide, especially when it comes to multilingual instruction. In Framingham, we take care of our own. I am painfully aware our enrollment has declined. Last year, Fuller tested 270 ESL students via the WIDA Access Test. This year, we tested only 185. Considering the current political climate for immigrants, I think we all know why we have fewer multilingual learners. With this in mind, can we justify a decision to cut positions that affect our most vulnerable populations? the very students who will most certainly feel the loss of their teachers and mentors. Many of the teachers who will be affected by their proposed cuts are those who directly serve multilingual learners. They are bilingual staff. They are immigrants themselves, whose visas depend on their employment. They are spouses of immigrants who have only just brought their partners here. I believe the City of Framingham can find a creative solution to the financial deficit. While over-reliance on Chapter 70 funding has left us unguarded, there are other options. I have faith in the humanity of everyone I see here tonight, and I don't believe the current proposal reflects the outcome any of you truly want. And so, I urge you to contemplate the long-term impact layoffs will have on staff and student morale, Framingham's reputation as an ally, and the progress we have made towards closing the achievement gap. After all, if we don't prioritize education, who will?
Jessica Neal is up next. Jessica Neal.
I just want to say good evening to members of the school committee. My name is Jessica Neal, and I'm from District 5. I first wanted to speak as the parent of a 7th grader at Fuller. The 3 things that made my kid really feel a part of his middle school as a new 6th grader were drama, Falcon Singers, and jazz band. The 3 drama, music, and band teachers each saw him and nurtured his interests, giving him the confidence to belong and thrive. He made a bunch of friends in these programs, and that is his current middle school community. It would be a huge detriment to our school system if these programs were cut or even reduced. Our kids deserve opportunities to sing, to act, and to find their voices and their people, not to mention their authentic selves. In addition to being a parent, I am also a middle school art educator in a neighboring district where I have taught for the past 21 years. One of the joys of being an art educator is being able to build relationships with students and see them grow from year to year as artists, as well as develop as human beings. We are the safe spaces for the students when they need us and each other the most. If theater and choral educators were to spread themselves over multiple buildings, there would be fewer opportunities to get to know students and for those students to trust their teachers and build on their artistic skills. This would result in lower quality programs as students progress into high school, and fewer students to find their confidence, their joy, and the opportunity to share their gifts. Those of you with kids, think about what gets them through the school day. What do they care about? What are they proud of? Where do they feel seen? What would they be without the arts? Thank you.
Yin Wang is up next. Yin Wang. Yin Wang. Welcome.
Good evening. I want to tell everyone that there's one program you did not mention, which is the Mandarin program in Welsh Middle School. So I am in Went, and I am the only Mandarin teacher in all 3 middle school. So I started about 9 years ago, started from Kane Elementary and Walsh at the same time. So every day I will go to Kane Elementary for about an hour, and I teach K to 5th graders. And I was blown away by the fact that they were just like sponges, get the way to say things without any hesitation. The even better thing for me to see is that they have this lion courage. They will go and point it out to you, hey, you said it wrong. That's not how you say it. So that's what I saw. But guess what? 2 years later, that program got cut. I didn't know where to go. I didn't know who to talk to. So here I am standing in front of you because I am facing the same problem again. Walsh Middle School, I was told that the program is going to be eliminated. And my students who are currently with me have to go to French or Spanish. Is that really something we can't do better than that? No, they don't agree with me. You see around you that many of them come and want to talk to you and want you to see their face and tell you who they are. We are not a group of students just hiding behind the classroom, minding our own business. We go to elementary school to perform in Mandarin. We go to MFA, we go to Boston Chinatown as our field trip. Not only that, we build a community because they're with me for 3 years. They get to know each other. At the end of the day, they be friends and they will talk about it forever. The experience they share, what they do together in my classroom. And when I told them, many of them cried. I almost cried. And today I told them, no paper. You want to tell your story. You want to be able to say it with what you believe, with passion, and with your ability, what you have learned. So please, this is only one program.
That's time.
Thank you.
Crystal McNeil.
Hi, my name is Crystal McNeil. I'm both a teacher in Framingham as well as a parent. And I'm here tonight because I care deeply about this district, not only as my profession, but as my children's school system. I want to be very clear, these proposed cuts do a profound disservice to our students. Cutting teachers, paraprofessionals, support staff, and performing arts does not simply adjust staffing levels. It removes access, stability, and belonging for children, especially our most vulnerable learners. Support staff are not extras. Performing arts are not luxuries. They are often the reason students feel connected to school at all. As an educator, I see firsthand that class sizes are already stretched, students' needs are increasing, and teachers are already doing more with less. Many of us routinely pay out of pocket for classroom supplies, materials, and basic necessities. Teachers did not create this deficit, yet teachers and students are being asked to absorb its consequences. As a parent, I'm deeply concerned about what this means for my own children and their peers. When adults are removed from schools, children lose relationships. When programs are cut, students lose opportunities to feel successful in ways that are not measured by test scores alone. I also need to ask the hard question that many families and educators are asking. How did we get here? How? Enrollment decline did not happen overnight. The level of debt reflects systemic fiscal decisions, not classroom level failures. And yet the burden of correcting those decisions is falling disproportionately on schools, students, and frontline staff, rather than being addressed as a district and city accountability issue. I understand that budgeting is complex. I budget, I have to do it every day. I understand difficult decisions must be made, but I don't believe the solution should be one that hollows out our classrooms, reduces student support, and dismantles programs that give children identity, joy, and belonging.
That's 2 minutes. Please wrap up.
I'm asking this committee to pause, reconsider, and seek solutions that protect students first, solutions that do not ask children and educators to pay for mistakes that they did not make. Framingham can do better than balancing budgets on the backs of its students. Thank you.
All right, next up, Heather Camrata. And then just a note, Leah, I do see your hand up in Zoom, so you will be called on a little bit later. Is there a Heather in the room? Sorry, I don't think I got your last name right. Camerata, thank you.
My name is Heather Camerata, and I've been an ESL teacher at Potter Road for over a decade. I want to speak to you about the reality of why the loss of ESL students does not scale. At our school and at all dual language schools across the district, the logistics of scheduling services is extremely difficult. DESE requires ESL students to receive between 45 to 90 minutes of ESL per day, depending on their proficiency level. We are only able to provide this instruction during literacy blocks. Because we have dual language and SEI classes, those classes have literacy blocks at different times to accommodate the support staff pushing in to help students. We are expected to teach with a push-in model, meaning we have to go into the classrooms to work with the students because that is the most effective way to deliver ESL instruction. That means we can't be in multiple places at once. We have ESL teachers currently able to work in only 2 grade levels, meaning that we can work effectively and closely with our team. We can build strong relationships that allow us to co-teach effectively. Without those positions, we are not able to have time to collaborate with our teams, and we are not able to co-plan and build those strong relationships that are essential to co-teaching. With our current staffing, we can also run intervention groups for ESL students who did not make expected progress on state testing. With a reduction in 2 positions in our ESL staff, we'd need to go back to ESL teachers servicing 3 or 4 grade levels in order to ensure that all students receive their minutes. With that kind of staffing, we'd often be out of the loop when it comes to grade level decisions because we would not be at team times, we would not be able to work effectively with intervention groups, and it would make it much more difficult for ESL teachers to get to know students as readers and writers because we would be piecemealing together services with students having to work with multiple ESL teachers rather than having one teacher that works with their class. With the loss of 2 ESL positions, it does not make sense to us because our most recent MCAS scores show that English learners and former English learners have declined in scores. I truly question the decision to reduce ESL staffing while expecting us to provide students with the support they need to progress with fewer resources. I know that you have difficult decisions ahead and the budget is extremely tight. I am proud to work in a district that strives to support and uplift our immigrant community and ESL population. Every day as I step under the bilingual banner on our door, I feel grateful to work in a school with a thriving dual language program, to have the opportunity to collaborate with my Brazilian colleagues, and to help my students become biliterate, bilingual future leaders. I urge you to reconsider cutting ESL staff across the district. How can we stand with our ESL population while pulling away their access to supports? Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Storch. Up next, Robert Bowles. Robert Bowles. Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Robert Bowles, District 4. This is very interesting. I'm usually here all by myself for 30 years.
We got you.
I'm a 64-year Framingham taxpayer, and many of you people know me. I was a long-time Framingham Town Meeting member. I've been attending and speaking at school committee meetings for 30 years. I worked in public schools for over 30 years. I was a member of the SEA and the MTA for almost 30 years. I know what it takes to make a good school system. And I'm speaking in full support of Dr. Tremblay's budget. He has had to deal with many problems here since he came. And we have to get Bethany built so we can get back to neighborhood schools and save some tax dollars there. Over the years, we have had some good superintendents, Dr. Hersey, Dr. Gockat, many others not so good. Dr. Tremblay has been very good for our school system, and we need his leadership through these trying times. Over school budget has gone from school budget has gone from $88 million in 2011 to now $200 million today. Big increase with less students. Us low income and fixed income homeowners just can't afford to live here anymore. Framingham used to be very affordable. It just isn't anymore, and I'm hoping it can get straightened out. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next, Susan Francis. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Susan Francis, District 2, and a parent of a current high school student and a recent high school graduate. I'm also a district employee, but tonight I'm speaking as a parent. I'm raising theater kids. The FPS Fine Arts programs offer the same rigor, expectations, and opportunities to explore and excel that our athletic programs do. And just as sports programs develop athletes and prepare them for the next level, so too do our fine arts programs. It's like a farm team with jazz hands. The performance opportunities offered at every school level help our students stretch and grow. The impact is cumulative. Collaboration, time management, creative thinking, problem solving, project management, and flexibility. These are essential skills to succeed and thrive at school and in life that my daughters have learned from their FPS fine arts and health educators. When you're working on a large-scale show, the work of every person matters. When you accidentally forget a key prop for your song, you learn to wing it. When your dialogue partner bungles their lines, you learn to shore them up, to improvise. When you have 4 performances the weekend before midterms, you learn to manage your time and workload efficiently. The world needs more citizens who know how to collaborate, who know how to think creatively, who are resilient, who know how to solve thorny problems together. Sage and chorus and drama and band and health may seem like more peripheral offerings than science and math, but for kids like mine who eschew traditional boxes, these programs are vital. It was the arts that drew my kids to school on days they didn't want to go, because they know that if you miss school, you can't go to rehearsal or participate in the spring concert. The FPS mission is to embrace differences and inspire futures. We cannot forget the students that don't fit into tidy boxes of athlete or mathlete, the ones who otherwise might not engage if it weren't for Mandarin, or cooking classes, or theater festivals, or the opportunity to learn about the changes to their bodies from the princess of puberty herself.
That's time. Please, final comment.
Thank you. Please consider every avenue, every type of learner as you navigate this challenge. Thank you.
All right, Sarah McEwen's up next. Sarah McEwen.
Hello, Sarah McKeown, District 7 resident and Dunning teacher. In terms of the budget, we are always told to think of positions, not people, but there are people in those positions. A key issue behind the students and families leaving this district, many of our families have been directly harmed by policies and actions of ICE and other groups in this community. There's been very little specific acknowledgement from our city government, although there's been more from school committee through our schools. Grateful for that. I did a home visit with a family last night, annual visit with this family for many years, and they are terrified. And they asked me what the plan is if their children come home from school and they are not there. And I was shaken because I don't know what the plan is, and I don't even know if there is a plan. And we are responsible for these children when they come into our schools each day, and just because we put them on buses and vans at the end of the day to go home, does our responsibility end? And what if these children, our students, do return to empty homes? These families count on us to support them and communicate with them, and that should include community leaders calling out the inhumane treatment of the people in its own streets. Regardless of how anyone feels about immigration, these people are human beings, many of them children, and what is going on is cruel, and it is directly affecting our schools, our city's economy, our city. I know people don't want to touch emergency funds. I teach first grade. I can, teach first grade math. I don't know about funds. But if the money is there for emergency situations, I would consider this one. Education is the foundation of our future, and what better reason than to dip into such a fund than to protect what we already have and cement the foundation for our future. I urge you to come up with a better plan that eliminates or at least reduces these cuts. City councilors, I'm sure you're watching, so I hope you're hearing it too. The long-term harm that this will do to our city will be felt for years to come. I also urge you to take steps to protect, or at the very least, acknowledge our immigrant students and families and the very real fears they are living with daily. Perhaps if families felt seen and supported and they know that there are solid plans in place to keep them safe, they might remain.
That's 2
and
minutes.
we
Sarah,
as
please wrap up.
educators should also all remain to teach them. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Hannah Geller. Hannah Geller, welcome.
Good evening. My name is Hannah Geller, and I'm a sophomore at Framingham High School. And like many of you, or maybe your children, I started 6th grade during the tail end of COVID, so we all came back wearing masks and unsure of how to be around each other. It was the beginning of the awkward preteen years, which doesn't help, and one of the things that was really a struggle was trying to find my place. And I was fortunate enough to find the Walsh Middle School Drama Company. I auditioned for my first show and just kept going, and ended up participating in all 6 productions throughout my middle school years. And because of that space, that became somewhere that I felt seen, welcome, and safe when a lot of kids, including myself, felt lost. And throughout high school, I've been, again, a member of all of the drama company performances, and I think it's just a really important program that got me through some really tough parts of my life. And I just want to be I just think that without these programs, I wouldn't have a place to go after school. I would be sitting around waiting for a ride or waiting for a bus, and these gave me community. They gave me adults who believed in me when I couldn't believe in myself. And without these staff members, I don't know where I would be right now. If it weren't for my 8th grade chorus teacher who is here right now, I would be a really, really different person than I am right now. I wouldn't have the confidence to be speaking in front of all of you. And I'm just really fortunate that they all had my back during some of the toughest years of my life so far. And these aren't just extras. These programs are quite literally lifelines for some of us. And if the fine and performing arts are cut, students won't just lose the classes or activities. We're going to lose spaces where they feel safe, supported, and understood. And some of us cannot afford to lose that. So please consider the impact that these programs have on us in our lives. Thank you.
Up next, A.O. Smith. A.O. Smith. I'm sorry. A.O. Smith? I'm sorry. I'm not pronouncing that right. Welcome.
Hello. Ni hao. My name is Aoife, and I am in 6th grade, and I am in the Mandarin program. I'm here with my fellow community to show support for the continuation of Mandarin. It is not only a class, it is a community full of teamwork, and it fosters confidence in a new language. I hope you consider letting us learn this wonderful language. Thank you, and have a good night.
Next up, Rebecca Lawrence.
Hi, good evening. My name's Rebecca Lawrence. I am a Framingham resident. I am a parent of 2 students in Framingham Public Schools, and I've been a teacher at Fuller Middle School for 8 years or so. I'm also joining everyone here being frustrated and deeply concerned about the budget proposal that targets our student-facing staff. I stand before you today not to plead for my job, but to plead for the futures of the children at stake here and the welfare of everyone who lives in Framingham, who will be affected by the current budget proposal. A lot of what I was going to say has already been said, so I'm going to scrap a lot of it because, you know, cutting it down to 2 minutes anyway. And really, to echo what some people here have said tonight about the drama programs, about the importance of all the programs that are on the list of proposed cuts. My daughter is a freshman at high school this year. She started middle school saying she would never set foot on a stage, and she decided to go into tech crew for the first performance of 6th grade. Since then, and last weekend, I watched her at the front of the stage at FHS as part of the big group in the amazing play that they put on the last couple of weekends. And to see that transition and to see her taking her first year at high school with such strides because of the people around her who have come from the drama program and from the other programs that she's been involved in is phenomenal. I never thought I would see the day. These cuts will result in losses to that, losses to targeted interventions, support for vulnerable students, reduced support for students who are struggling to meet grade level benchmarks, shortages for special needs and language support staff, which will again present challenges to our strategic goals. At Fuller, we've been working extremely hard for years, but also particularly recently trying to make progress, increasing our access scores and accountability percentages.
That is 2 minutes, if you don't mind, final wrap-up.
Yep. As you know, we are facing the highest percentage of staff cuts in the district, which will increase the pressure on the staff remaining to achieve this. I beg of all of you to really put our city and the students and everyone here ahead of this budget proposal, and go back to the city and urge them to utilize what they have to fully fund our education budget as we need it to be.
Andy Creel is next. Andy Creel. Welcome.
Good evening. Andy Creel, District 4 resident and parent, and I'm modifying these comments on the fly without the benefit of a drama education, so please bear with me. And I too am here tonight to ask the committee to reject this budget as proposed. Much too often, programs like these outside of the so-called core curricula are the first targeted when districts seek to reduce spending. But as you've heard numerous times tonight, they are vital to students. And I say that as a former math teacher, so I'm not dismissing the importance of those traditional academic subjects, but I'm just saying that these are every bit as important and irreplaceable. I taught math at an arts magnet high school, and it just so happens that I started working at that school as its district was facing declining enrollment. In fact, in my second year, it was not just our arts programs that were on the chopping block, but our entire school. Parents, teachers, and staff made impassioned pleas to the district, of course, but without a doubt, the students' response to our proposed closure is what saved the school. They organized themselves, crafting signs, constructing messaging, and planning a pair of walkouts where an overwhelming majority of the student body marched from their classrooms to the doors of the district office. Their determination did not wane with time or when our prospects looked the most grim. Instead, they packed meeting after meeting to be heard and seen until at last the district relented from its plan and our school remained open. They found more money. It can happen. Despite my best efforts, no trigonometry was used in this effort.
About 2 minutes, sir, if you don't mind wrapping
Many of
up.
the challenges we face in life cannot be overcome alone, and people are not led with calculus, but with courage, confidence, and compassion. Please do not restrict our children's opportunities to build these qualities. Thank you.
Is there Brandon?
Brendel.
Brendel, thank you.
All right. Hi, I'm Brendel Randolph, and I just want to speak on two accords, one as a parent, the second as an activist. So as a parent, I have had two children in the Framingham Public School District, one of which just recently graduated, and he's going to pursue an honors program at a four-year university next year. The second one is in middle school, and he came to me and cried because he's in Mandarin. So his program is going to get cut. So I want you to reject this proposal on two accords. And I'm going to put these two thoughts in your head, and I'll be really quick. First, in the same way the city understands that some of the only meals some of the people, some of the students in this city get are from our public schools. Some of the only exposure they'll get to the arts, languages, the world, theater, culture is in our public schools. To reject them is to reject the least of ye. It is immoral to do so. It is immoral to restrict them from the rest of the world that they may never get exposed to. That's on the first level. On the second level, as an activist, I am tired of Framingham Public Schools being the punching bag for the incompetence of the city. There are two sides to this budget. There's a revenue generation side, which doesn't happen because we don't generate any revenue because our economic development is incompetent. Amen. We don't tax the people who need to be taxed. That's why there's a budget shortfall. And then the incompetence and the lack of creation of how we can deal with this budget shortfall is part of the incompetence too. Why can't they do their jobs? And why are they always going to the schools to make up for their incompetence? This has not happened just this year. This has been every year we've been here. I need you newly elected people, this newly comprised student school committee, to have a new character. Stand up for our kids. Period. No more letting the bully come and take your lunch money. No more of this. I will say this in front of every city councilor if you need me to. But you got to forgive me. We just had Dr. King's holiday, and I saw the wonderful people speaking for all the best of us. But we will not allow our kids to be taken from because someone else is incompetent. Someone else is scared to confront other people about the job they should be doing for our city that they're not doing. The people they're scared to tax. We need someone to stand up for our kids, and it has to be you. It has to be a full rejection of this budget. No compromise. No adjustments. No compromise. Reject this fully and make the other people do their job. Thank you.
Addison Wendrow, you're up next. Addison Wendrow. Oh, Cora too. Oh, okay, last two. Got it. Thank you.
I'm Addison Wendrow. And I'm Cora Chan. Good evening. We will be speaking to you on behalf of the 7th grade Mandarin class at Walsh.
Many students in Mandarin class, both high school and middle school, will have a hard time transitioning into other languages. Every student works very hard in Mandarin class, and cutting it will be a difficult experience as they have to restart their progress.
We have already been learning in this class for 2 years. Not only is this class fun and super helpful, it is a class that we can all just be ourselves in. It's not only important to us, but to our teacher, Miss Wang, who has come up with many different activities and learning games in the past 9 years she's been working. She's created this amazing program, and taking it away would be undoing all her hard work. She has taught us to learn public speaking and many other things.
Learning in Mandarin can also help students improve memory skills. Mandarin also teaches students about new culture, possibly making students more open-minded and to understand the world better. Cutting the program would mean forcing students to start over and learn a new language.
Learning Chinese has been such an amazing experience for every single person in our class.
Learning Chinese can also connect to what we are learning about in geography this year and years to come. It can teach us about Chinese culture, which I never would have even thought about learning until I took Mandarin.
The city of Framingham is known for its diversity, and taking the second most popular language in the world away would be taking away the diversity Framingham stands for. That's right. When I first met Miss Wang at my elementary school, Hemingway, I knew I wanted to take her class, and I've learned so many things from this program. The Mandarin program isn't just a class, it's an experience where we all made new friends and connected with our wonderful, wonderful teacher, Miss Wang. Thank you for listening, and we hope you can consider.
All right, up next we have Miss Leah Mowens on Zoom. If you could just give us a quick sound check, and I'll start your time.
Testing.
I can't really hear you.
Testing. Does that work?
If you could talk a lot louder, it's coming in very quietly.
All right, I will speak loudly in my theater voice.
Okay, we got you.
Hi, my name is Leah Flaherty Mowens, and I am the volunteer director at the Barberry Drama Club, District 1, kids at Barberry, Walsh, and the high school. This is my 11th year with the Barberry program, and nothing brings me more joy than coming to middle school and high school productions of the drama companies, band concerts, art shows, and dance performances to see my alumni, my Barberry babies. Band, chorus, drama, art, we've heard it all tonight. We theater nerds accept everyone. As a volunteer for an after-school program, I don't have any insider information. My drama club kids are all self and family identified participants. The beauty of full-time arts and music staff at the middle school level is that they see our kids. That girl in third period who's looking for a community and just needs a gentle invitation to join pop choir. That kid in homeroom who dropped out of hockey and soccer and swim and all the other athletic activities but can sing. He needs a safe space to learn how to tap dance as exercise. These staff members have a pulse on our schools in a way that us as parents do not have, and it is vital. The kids in drama and band and theater all learn how to stand on stage and sing their faces off. They learn an entire musical language. They learn how to work as a team and keep their cool under pressure and make scene changes work. And they learn that they need to wear deodorant. It's middle school. I often speak in hyperbole. I am a theater kid, but I mean this. Framingham Public Schools has something other districts do not have. Our arts and music and theater programs are out of this world, high quality and important to hundreds of children and families and our community. The kids who can't sit still in math, the kids who need to be heard but aren't sure how, the kids who want to be behind the scenes, and the professionals who commit their lives to supporting the kids who need all of those things. Please, please, please consider continuing to support arts and music curriculum in Framingham, especially at the middle school level. The programs and staff are essential. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Up next, our last speaker online, Zaina Kais. Zaina, can you give us a quick sound check and I'll start your clock.
Hi. Can you hear me?
I can, yeah.
So I'm a parent to two students here in the Framingham Public School, and I want to speak to the proposed staffing cuts and the very real impact they will have on our students. At a time when behavioral and social emotional needs are clearly on the rise, reducing teaching and support staff is not just short-sighted, it is harmful. Our teachers cannot do this work alone. We need more classroom aides, more social workers, more ESL teachers, and stronger student support services, not fewer. These roles are essential to maintaining safe, inclusive, and effective learning environments. The proposed cuts also include the SAGE program. My two kids are in SAGE, and SAGE is staffed by educators who meet the needs of students who require enrichment and advanced learning opportunities. Cutting SAGE sends the message that creativity, critical thinking, and academic challenge are optional. They are not. Programs like SAGE are what keep many students engaged and thriving. Staffing cuts are not just numbers on a spreadsheet, they are cuts to students, to classrooms, and to the future of our schools. We need to invest in people, not reduce them. Thank you.
All right, this concludes our public comment time. Thank you for all who came out tonight and for all who joined in person or online in Zoom, and also to the people who have written us throughout the day. I'm seeing a hand. Is somebody else interested in speaking publicly? This is all I have on my sheet. Okay, come on up. We have time for one more. All right, Drayden.
Hello, my name is Drayden Maskell, and I am an 8th grade student from the Framingham school system. I'm here to speak about why school funding should not be cut, especially for chorus, drama, and the dual language programs. Because all of these programs have helped me and other people shape who they are in these schools. School activities play an important role in students' development through chorus and drama. I've learned skills such as teamwork, responsibility, and communication. These programs have helped me become more comfortable speaking in front of others and working with people that I may not have known before. Performing and collaborating with others has given me confidence that carries over to my classes and my everyday life. As a student in the dual language program, I know how important it is to have opportunities that support different ways of learning and expressing ourselves. The dual language program has taught me how to communicate across cultures, think critically, and work hard towards long-term goals. Chorus and drama have supported these same skills by encouraging creativity and collaboration. Together, academic programs like dual language and extracurricular activities help students grow in a balanced, meaningful ways. Chorus and drama also support students who may not have always succeeded in traditional academic settings. They give students a structured environment to build confidence, express themselves, and stay engaged in school. These programs also give students a place where they feel respected and valued and accepted for who they are. When students feel seen and supported, they're more likely to succeed both in and out of the classroom. Cutting funding for our school's activities would limit opportunity for students to explore interests and develop important life skills. Maintaining the programs like chorus, drum, and the dual language ensure that students receive a well-rounded education and feel supported both academically and personally. Thank you for your time and considering the impact of your decisions.
Once again, thank you everybody for joining us tonight and for your feedback and for advocating for our kids and our families and our community, and for those of you attending on Zoom and those of you who have written in. A number of emails came in today that we've received. We're going to take things out of order. I'm going directly over to the Executive Director of Finance and Operations. I'll turn it over to Lincoln Lynch to start budget discussion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, everybody. If Joanna can put the presentation, we'll start with the overview of where we're at with the budget and what we've done to close the budget gap. Okay, Joanna, if you can go to slide 3, that'd be great. Okay, thank you. All right, on your screen here shows where the proposed budget is as of tonight. This is based on all the reductions that were made that were spoken about tonight. So the total proposed budget for this evening is 3.39% increase. It's $6,213,753. You could see by line our salaries, our additional salaries, and our expenses. The majority of the increase is through the salaries. It's a 2.58% increase. But we also have increases to our additional salaries based on collective bargaining agreements. And then our expenses also went up just over $1.8 million. It's special ed tuition, out-of-district transportation, in-district transportation, utilities. We'll go through those in a couple slides. But just to be clear, this proposed budget here on the screen is after all of the cuts that were spoken about tonight and the cuts that were sent to you prior to this meeting. Next slide, please. So it's been discussed a little bit tonight about revenue, and this slide talks about our revenue projections. And kind of how the process goes is we meet with city leadership. There's projections done on what the tax increase will bring in for revenue, what new growth, and then our state aid. Our operating budget is pretty much split right down the middle. So half our budget is funded by state aid, half of it by local receipts, or what we call local contribution. It is early. It's earlier than in previous years, so actual numbers are not known yet, especially on the state aid. The governor's budget has not come out, but based on our enrollment, it's been talked a little bit about tonight as well. As of October 1st, we were down 640 students when compared to the previous October 1st. So what the state does for their Chapter 70 state aid formula, they bank solely on enrollment in 13 different categories, by age, by school level. They look at low-income students, they look at ELL students, they look at special ed students, and the very complicated formula, which again is based on enrollment, provides a total amount for a city or town. Now, part of the law is you are held harmless. So if your enrollment stays the same, you get a little bit of money. If your enrollment increases significantly, like ours did a few years ago, by I believe 450 students, we got $16 million in addition to what we got the previous year. So you are held harmless. And I think that piece of the law allows us to be where we are today. If that was not there, it would be worse, because we went the other way. We're down 640 students. So that held harmless. We got $92.5 million in state aid for this current year. We will get that next year, but our increase will be minimal. Depending on the governor's budget, by law, it has to be $30 per student. That would give us about $258,000 in addition to the $92.5 million we got last year It is small amount when we actually need 15 million to level service. So again, we needed 15 million at the start of the budget process. If, and I believe we will be a minimum aid district, if it's $30 per student, and hopefully we'll know between now and next Wednesday what that number is, we would only be increased by $258,000. Now this year it was $150 per student. That would give us about 1.3 million, but still, it's only 1.3 million. We needed 15 million when we first started this process. So just to give you an idea, that is just to give you an idea of how the revenues work, at least on the state side. And that's about 50% of our budget. So that budget gap happens because the state aid just has not kept up, and the local receipts also have not caught up. Another piece of the revenue that offset our operating costs are federal funds, state funds through the grant process. So we get over $12 million in grants. We are fortunate to have that, but we are projecting to see a decrease in those federal funds. So a decrease in federal funds means the operating budget has to take on a little bit more. So when we talk about new costs, new salaries, that's what that is. There are no new positions in this budget proposal. The increase in funding on the salary side is moving federal funds or salaries that were funded by federal funds over to the operating budget. Next slide, please. This slide shows where we started, the 15.1 million that we needed for level services. The proposed city budget for the school department is only a $6.2 million increase. And that 6.2 million is the local receipts we talked about plus the state aid. So we are projected to get 6.2 million. So that has created this $8.9 million budget gap that we have been talking about for weeks, for months, spent a lot of time thinking how we can close that gap before classroom teachers are affected, before staff are affected. So the second piece of this slide shows how we got to zero. So we started with an $8.9 million budget gap. We reduced just about 1.3 million in expenses through our. That's what I sound like? Okay. So, yeah, right. So we reduced 1.3 million. That's department budgets only. We did not touch school budgets. School budgets are relatively small anyways, so to even consider that would decimate instructional supply funding. We did not touch the schools. So all the directors that oversee their department budgets, we cut 10% of their request with a $100,000 max. So for instance, the transportation budget is several $1 million. So we could not afford to cut 10% of that. The maximum there was 100,000. So 1.3 million in expenses, that closed the gap slightly. Based on some federal funding information that we've received from the state, we don't believe that it will be reduced as much as we thought. At the beginning, we were thinking 15% reduction to Title I and then total elimination to Title II, III, and IV. We're thinking more along the lines of about a 7.5% to 8% decrease in Title I, elimination of Title III, and then Title II and IV would be flat. There's still more information coming out. Some information came out today that potentially it could be flat, but nothing is set in stone. So we are still banking on moving federal costs funded by federal funds to the operating budget. After that, unfortunately, that's where we started looking at staffing. So we are proposing to reduce $964,000 in central office staff, then $342,738 school-based administrators, and then almost $4.8 million in teaching staff, with another $1 million school-based support staff. So all of those reductions closes the gap. It is a significant decrease in staffing, and we understand that totally. It's 116 positions that we'd be reducing. to close this budget gap and what this budget proposal includes tonight. It is reductions across all schools except for Blocks Preschool. The enrollment there fluctuates so much throughout the year. We did not look to reduce any staffing there. But at all the other schools, we put a target of FTEs at every school based on the drop in enrollment, a percentage of the total enrollment. So we felt the best way to reduce the budget gap was to take that step where we took, say, at Fuller Middle School, it was over 100 student reduction. What percentage of the total 640 student drop that is, multiply that by what the staffing level in that school is, and that would be the target to reduce. So we worked through every school to hit that target and to get down to the $6.2 million number proposed by the city. And unfortunately, that meant 116 FTE reduction to close the budget gap. Next slide, please. The next two slides are just the budget drivers. It shows what our high cost buckets are across the district, across the schools. So with every district, personnel costs are always the highest. We're at 78.4% of our budget is salaries. So that's an increase of $4.3 million. Something to note is we still count turnover savings. So if we did not count turnover savings, that number would be $5.75 million more than what is shown here. We see savings throughout the year, right around $5.5 to $6 million. When a staff member who's budgeted at $100,000 leaves, we hire someone at $75,000, you save $25,000. And with almost 2,000 staff members, that savings adds up. So instead of having a surplus at the end of the year, we take it right off the top of the budget, right at the beginning. So that is something to note, that if we did not do that, this number would be even higher, the budget gap would be even higher. Next budget driver is our special education tuition and transportation, almost $32 million combined, sending students to out-of-district placements. Also funded through Circuit Breaker, which is special ed cost reimbursement program through the state, and then through our 240 grant. So again, we are fortunate to have funding through those two funding sources to offset the operating budget. If we didn't have that, again, the budget gap would be even bigger. Third budget driver is our yellow bus operation. As many of you know, we have an in-house busing operation. New buses will be arriving in July to hopefully transport every student that needs it. And then we have $1.5 million projected in McKinney-Vento homeless transportation costs. That driver actually is a reduction based on this current year's transportation in McKinney-Vento budget. The bid that we put out for school buses came in lower than we thought, and that definitely drove down the overall ask for FY27. Next slide, please. Yep. So the fourth budget driver I talked about a little earlier is our federal grant reductions. So $690,952 moves from federal funds to the operating budget to keep those positions and support those schools. Utilities is up significantly. We are seeing increases in gas costs. We are seeing increase in electric, in telephone costs. So that accounts for about $1.1 million increase from this current FY26 to FY27. And then our commitment to pre-K expansion costs just over $1.4 million. So that includes our 3 public partners with the YMCA, Framingham State, Loving Nest, and then we have classrooms at McCarthy Elementary and Harmony Grove Elementary School. Next slide, please. The final couple slides here are more informational. It shows what the local contribution has been. It shows what our enrollment has been, how that coincides specifically to enrollment and what the Chapter 70 increases has been. You can see throughout the years, We've been pretty fortunate seeing growth in enrollment, but there are some years, FY22, for instance, we saw a decrease in enrollment, just over 450 kids, and we only received $279,000. So unfortunately, I think for FY27, we're repeating what we saw in FY22. Next slide, please. This slide shows the difference or a comparison between the bars on the right show in white what the Chapter 70 state aid is, and the gray show the local contribution, and you can see how that's fluctuated over the years. To note, again, dropping our total operating budget request, the city covers, I have to change that, it says 40, it's over $50 million in school-related costs in the city budget. The majority of that is the health insurance and other insurances that our staff, that the city covers, the portion for the staff members. So that budget shows up on the city side, does not show up on the school side. So just a note, on the city side, it's over $50 million of school-related costs that's covered on that side. Next slide, Joanna, this is the last one. Just the next steps. So obviously tonight, in the budget book is in your packets. It is a draft. It's about 95% completed. Based on the discussion tonight, significant changes could be made depending on what decisions are made tonight. But the budget book in your packets reflects, again, the $6.2 million budget number that's being proposed tonight with the reductions. And then over the next couple months, we will be voting on the budget 2 weeks from tonight to send it to the mayor. The mayor will present the budget. City council will refer to finance subcommittee. And then there are many meetings to go over the budget, and hopefully we will have an approved budget in April 2026. So it is earlier than previous years based on the charter. So that is the overall budget presentation for tonight.
Okay, we'll open it up for discussion and questions. Ms. Moshe.
Why, hello. I do have a question about reductions. So I know that was proposed 116 positions, but from my understanding, 40 of those positions are positions that weren't filled, so we're looking at 76 positions? Is that correct?
Yes, so projections right now show 40 total open positions plus retirements that we know of. So we would look to eliminate those 40 positions before actual people are affected. But that would be the idea.
Thank you. And as far as programs, can we talk about that for a few minutes as what is proposed to be cut, what's decreased versus cut? I think that's really important because I need clarification because I'm not having that understanding of it's not clear.
Yeah. If it's okay with you, Madam Chair, I'll send it over to Ann Ludis.
Sure.
Or Dr. Tremblay.
Of course.
I just wanted to acknowledge, and thank you everyone for being out here this evening. I know many people left, and it's unfortunate because I think it's important to hear the whole conversation. I just want to acknowledge and thank you for being here tonight. I didn't mean to cut you off, and I just wanted to acknowledge for the committee to know as well, you may not be aware of that. So all of our principals are in Zoom, as well as all of our senior leadership team who represent all these department directors. So as specific questions come up this evening, whether it's school-based related or programmatic related, we'll do our best to answer those. But if it gets to be much more nuanced, we can call upon those leaders to also speak to that. But that being said, I just want to acknowledge and thank our principals and everyone who also is here tonight for earlier items on the agenda who are taken out of order. So thank you for staying. I hope it's okay that we can do that. Thank you. And I'll turn it back to you, Ms. Ludis. Thank you.
Thank you, Link. Thank you, Bob, and thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to first acknowledge that any reduction, we heard families students, staff members loud and clear, and I 100% agree. Any reduction is obviously going to have an impact. We know that. And so I'm just going to say that right out there, because even a reduction to something is going to result in some feeling of change. Some staff member who maybe a student has a connection with that is, no longer with the school or that able to work with that student due to a reduction or a move to another school. So I just want to acknowledge that right out of the gate. As it stands, I'm going to speak to Mandarin separately because that's a little bit more nuanced. But all of the other proposed cuts that you saw, the proposed staffing cuts, result in reductions to programs, not the elimination of a program. Again, knowing that that still results in a feeling of change or possible change. We can certainly speak to specific questions, but I want to address the Mandarin one a little bit more specifically because there are currently 36 students at Walsh Middle School enrolled in Mandarin classes, and there are 36 students at the high school enrolled in Mandarin classes. We have a full-time Mandarin teacher at Walsh Middle School. We have a full-time Mandarin teacher at Framingham High School. Mandarin is not offered at the other two middle schools as a language choice. While the Mandarin teacher position is being proposed as a cut for next year, the high school position is remaining, in the current model, is remaining in the budget. So that Mandarin will continue at the high school next year. I've spoken with Principal Albright, and he is open to looking at creative ways to support through enrichment, maybe not actual coursework in the sense that the teacher obviously wouldn't be able to be at Walsh Middle School to support a 6-day per cycle Mandarin class, but through enrichment to continue to support the current students at Walsh that will be rising 7th and 8th graders next year. Mr. Albright is open to looking at creative ways to provide time for that teacher in terms of how he schedules that teacher at the high school to be able to support the Walsh students that are currently in the Mandarin program. We also have access to an online middle school Mandarin course that we could provide to the students in addition to whatever other language of choice they choose, whether it's Spanish or French, to transition to. But there are currently 36 students, and I could even tell you how many. Give me just a minute. Of course, my computer timed out. I can tell you how many students would still be in the middle school program. There would be 30 students. So there are 6 8th graders who would, I presume, head to Framingham High School, certainly a high school program, and we would have 6 students rising to 8th grade, 15 students rising to 8th grade and 15 students rising to 7th grade, and we can support them with online coursework as well as part of an enrichment model for them.
Thank you. So that just means that it won't be offered to 6th grade next year, but we'll still have an enrichment program for 7th and 8th.
Correct. It would not, they would still need to be, I'm speaking, again, I'm always looking at creative options, and it's possible that Principal Johnson has some other ideas. But to my understanding, they would still, I would encourage them to still transition into another language, to begin learning another language while they're still in middle school. But we would still be able to offer, yes, enrichment opportunities for them if they would like to continue to pursue that.
Would that enrichment program cost us anything?
Yeah, don't hold me to this, but I'm under the impression it's about $350 or $400 per student, which is, even if all of them were to take this, what's that? 30 times about $12,000.
Also want to just comment on the points that have been raised tonight, which I wholeheartedly agree with. When you eliminate programs, particularly feeder programs to arts programming, you do lose that feeder. And over time, as happened, I think, before I came to the district, but it certainly did happen, is that in a matter of time, or less than a decade, you have no high school program. And so to cut programs, and I know the committee was really clear on where we don't have an interest in cutting programs. So again, given the variables that we were given in this math problem, we did our best to not cut programming. This is not, by the way, a budget that any of us in this room want. Just to be clear on that, as an arts champion myself. It's painful to have good discussions in this way, as it is for everyone in this room who's spoken and for everyone who's listening to it. These are people, these are lives, and these are things that matter to our kids. But in a way to try to manage the budget wherever that lands, we came back with a proposal that is something to just maintain a shell of it, and I'll say it's a shell of it. It is not the full program. It is a consolidation of schedules, which means that some staff who are dedicated to buildings, some of whom are in the room tonight, would have to be itinerant going. That is hardly ideal, especially commuting across the city of Framingham. But it provides at least some shell of a program without eliminating those programs. And the school committee was clear on making sure in our assignment that we weren't eliminating programs. And this budget reflects that. This budget does not reflect what we believe or what we value and what we've done. And for many of the positions that people spoke about tonight, I was responsible for helping to champion those very positions that exist today in the district. So this is, in many regards, steps backwards. It's heartbreaking, and it's work that will undo what we've committed to philosophically and in our budgets over the years and our strategic priorities, all of it. But the reality in front of us is the numbers don't add up. The math doesn't add up. The funds in our world that's presented here tonight, we have to balance this budget. So how we proceed, of course, we're going to give whatever the committee will answer any question. I provided that email that was sent yesterday to the entire district. I dreaded the moment of hitting the enter key to send that message, because I know it's going to be a morale crusher. And it has. You heard it tonight. And there's so many positions, by the way, people who are tuning in to watch this that weren't discussed at the podium, whose jobs and livelihoods are impacted by this budget. I want to acknowledge those people, too, who don't have advocates at the podium advocating for them, because they live in this world, too. They live in this community, they work here, and they work hard. And it's, for everybody in this room, and I know I'm sort of like singing to the choir, as it were, right? It's heartbreaking. But I don't know that we know any better way to get out of the situation based on what we've been given for parameters. And I just want to be clear about that. So I don't want there to be a feeling of this is what we believe, this is the right thing, this is what we need. None of that exists here. What exists here is a mathematical problem that we have to get to a balanced budget on. Just want to set that frame. But again, we're here to answer those questions, but I wanted to acknowledge those comments that were made about the arts programming. I don't know if that answers your question there. We talked about Mandarin. Again, similarly with SAGE programming, it was a reduction to, as you can see, the .22s that were shown in the email that was sent yesterday from me. It's a way to preserve, to some extent, and I'll call these shells of programs. They're not the full complement of programs.
Wait, can we just back up a step? So for Mandarin numbers, Walsh is 36, high school is 36?
Correct, they each have 36.
And for a high school teacher teaching full-time, how many blocks do they teach?
So technically, she teaches 4 blocks. She teaches levels of Mandarin from level 1 all the way up through AP, but they're consolidated so that she's teaching multiple levels at the same time. Because, for example, there's one student enrolled in Mandarin 5-1. So that course is paired up with AP Mandarin, which has 2 students in it. And so they're kind of bundled together, and she's teaching them at the same time.
So for one block, she'd have a course of 3 students?
No, I'd have to look and see. Mandarin 1 is isolated, and there are 5 students in that. That's taught by itself. I'm afraid to speak out of turn, but there's Mandarin 2, Mandarin 3, Mandarin 4, Mandarin 5, and AP Mandarin as well. And I'd have to double check. I looked at it again earlier today, but 2 and 3, I believe, are bundled, and maybe 4, 5, and AP are bundled. But consolidated in those 4 sections those 4 blocks in the schedule that she teaches, there are 36 students total.
Okay, I don't want to derail anything. So you're up next, Mr. Robles? Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Lincoln, for walking us through that again. And I have several things to say about this in light of some of the discussions that I've had with parents and also emails and the comments tonight. Number one, I'll address, theater, the arts. Man, this hits home. Ms. Doucette is here. Ms. Sam was here. Ms. Moen spoke. these are spaces where kids, is true, they find a place where they can be themselves. This has been a place where our youngest has been flourishing. Our two who are now in college were part of the theater arts. You all know and you've seen them on stage. Some of the people who are here we're friends with, and so I know this hits home really, really hard. ESL. I would not be here without ESL. I came to the United States when I was 17 years old. Thanks to ESL teachers, I got to college. It was a miracle that I got to learn English at that age, and to see that we're reducing this, it's not just heartbreaking, but it's also affecting students who are already scared of being here. And you take that, we're not doing this on purpose, but taking that away from them, I know it hurts, because what you want to do the most is to learn English so that you can fit in, that you feel like you, in spite of everything else that is you bring from your culture, this is the one thing that you have control over, to learn English. So this is really hard to look at. And yeah, the way that we are SAGE, another space where kids can be themselves, and our kids have also been part of this program. So I don't, Mr. Mayor, I don't know if you're still on, but we gotta find a way to see if we can ask the city council, what else can we be doing, and get creative with them, because I don't want to cut this program, so I can't vote to cut this program.
I will just state for the record that the mayor was here for public comment, but then he did have to leave, so your comments will have to be played tomorrow for him. Up next, we have Ms. Tovar. There's quite a line, so your hand is noted.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a quick thank you to everyone who came out tonight. That was an hour and 45 minutes of hearing from our community. And I think it's very evident that this budget proposal is not well received. But what I want to say is, I think somebody here mentioned that we didn't get here overnight, and I tend to agree, and I just wonder what other avenues could have been explored. And so that's like part of my question. And also, well, I'll come back to that. But Mr. Lynch, could you maybe tell us or speak to COLAs and how they were evaluated against the cuts? And I'm speaking particularly for non-bargaining positions. And I wonder if some of the positions that are being discussed could be saved if COLAs weren't awarded across salary ranges. So I'll just mention a quick example. I work in higher ed. We've been severely impacted by the federal cuts in my workplace. There have been people laid off across the institute where I work in, and in my area, leadership said, we will do everything to try to protect our employees, because our employees are what make this place work. And as an employee, hearing those words is very, very rewarding, to hear that your employer is supporting your position and sees the value in it. And so I tend to agree that I can't vote for this based on what we heard here tonight, but also I just feel like there's been a lot, for me anyway, and this is also as a new person, just confusion around what is happening with the budget. Like when we don't provide all of the information up front, that creates distress, and it creates a lot of anguish. And so, yeah, can you just tell us a little bit about the COLAs and how those could potentially save some positions?
Yeah, so for non-bargaining positions, they basically fall under school committee policy. And for years before Dr. Tremblay got here, non-bargaining staff, some would receive COLAs, some would not. So we made a commitment that we would give non-bargaining staff an increase as well, and we would align it with the Unit A contract. They do not get steps, so they get a true COLA. So in this budget, it's a 3.5% increase for all non-bargaining staff. You'll see in Unit A, they have a COLA and a step, so that could be 8% increase. These non-bargaining staff members get a true 3.5% only. There are so many important people that are non-bargaining that work for this district that it would be really, really hard to give everyone else an increase and withhold it from them. I think you would see a lot of good people leave and find a district that would give them a reason to come back year after year. I would highly recommend against withholding an increase to non-bargaining staff. And I don't think any of them are here tonight, so they can't speak for themselves, so I will.
Okay, thank you. Can I just follow up real quick? So I think it would be really helpful to have all of this information on our website. The Transparency Center, I didn't really see any of that there. Where can our constituents go to learn about these things? So I'm learning along the way. 3.5% is indeed very, very generous, especially for the people who are on the lower end of salary ranges. However, I'm not sure if the people on the higher end, I mean, I'm sure everybody works really hard, right? So it's not really directed at people per se, specific people per se. However, I don't know, we're talking about cutting campus aides and the Mandarin program and the positions that we heard here tonight, while some people who are on a higher tier of salary are getting their 3.5% COLA. So I think that's hard for me to ask. So.
I will just say that we've talked about COLAs and non-bargaining increases for months now, going through this whole budget process that started back in October. So, and I would just say, if anyone wanted a list of people, of increases, my email is on the website. I can give it to them. If it's something that you and the full committee want to do, to put every single position with increases on the website, I'm fine with that too.
Thank you.
What's up? Thank you. Up next, we have Mr. Freudberg, followed by Deborah.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So kind of some overarching points first, and I have some specific ideas to try to help at least float them and see what we can team up on. You know, overall, there's enough change going on in our world, nation, that I believe that local government, our school system, should restrict dramatic change, and some of these proposals obviously do that and are causing some issues from the stability of operations that I hope we can have. I think one of the things that was said at the podium was about our reputation as a school district and how this could possibly get worse if we make cuts and have the reputation that stops people from remaining here and wanting to move in here. So we also need to think about that big picture as well. So my overarching goals for tonight are looking at ways to create revenue. Some of that's in our lane, some of it's not. Most of it's not, but I have some ideas. I want to look at reducing cuts in the core non-enrollment decline-based areas. We should have some specific votes tonight or next meeting. I want to remind people about the contractual obligations that were made in 2024. They were made with zero knowledge of any enrollment predictions back then, and the full support of the executive branch, mayor, mayor, chief financial officer, school committee, and a unanimous vote, knowing that if enrollment changed, that the local contribution would have to go up to meet the guaranteed contractual obligation that is throughout these many documents I am very proud of. Before I bring up specific ideas and questions, I want to talk about the appreciation I have for the terrible exercise that you all went through, including your principals that don't get enough credit for what they had to do here. Without sounding like I'm giving you personally any grade, I'm not doing that. I believe that this document is a proposal that you are legally obligated to give us to balance the budget based on what the mayor's team is telling you. But that document, if you're going to use a grading scale, is really, to me, like a D. It's a non-starter, right? So we can't get to the A of the $15 million goal, but what can we do to maybe get to a B plus, B? And so, we got to start by looking at this document as an exercise that is a D because it's going to undo progress. It's going to be that shell that the superintendent just mentioned. I'm not here for shells. The level funded budget, that was proposed by the executive branch at the joint meeting is a dramatic cut. We need a level service budget, but I also understand that we can't ignore the enrollment decline. And so to get to, a place where we can minimize the 100+ positions, I wonder if there are ways to create revenue. So let's first start with that. If we can create a pathway that reduces the chance that the mayor has to raise taxes, which he expressed at the last meeting is difficult, or use the stabilization fund of the free cash, that's not our call, but we can still advocate for it, and let's not give up on advocating for that. But before we get to that, I do think there are some specific ways that we can help reduce the pain here. So let me go through this as quickly as I can. I mean, the first one is in Mr. Lynch's proposal at the last meeting. He recommends reducing expenses by $1.3 million. We have yet to adopt that by a vote of the committee, and I strongly recommend we do that. That's the easy one. We also need to explore what Ms. Tovar just said about non-bargaining. It's hard, and I don't prefer it, but it's a worthy conversation. We also need to be ready for the state budget release that comes out by the 28th. The minimum aid of $30 is $120 less than last year. Right now, our budget is based on a $30 minimum increase per student, minimum aid, right? And so we need to be ready that if that state proposal comes out anywhere over $30 per student, that money goes immediately directly to our budget gap and not to any other city fund. Additionally, as you're looking at federal funding and your proposal that assumes that $496,000 of federal Title III money is not coming, we got to look at where Congress is right now. By January 30th, the bipartisan bill that has already been announced does fund Title III far beyond the president's budget. And so if Congress does that, and the Department of Education is fully funded at the levels that Congress sets, then we should not be cutting $496,000 from our budget right now at all. We should take some legitimate risk and putting that $496,000 back in our budget and reducing the personnel cuts by that. Additionally, we should be draining the Building and Ground Revolving Fund to as low as possible and using the revenue that comes from that account where we rent out our school buildings and restoring positions based on that. If there are any other revolving funds to drain, we should absolutely do that. And my final point about revenue is healthcare. And this is the one where we could see some real savings if we can work this out with the city. As much as I want to not fill those 40 positions that you mentioned are already on track as vacancies or retirement, let's just say hypothetically that those 40 positions don't get filled. And let's just say that those 40 people, if they all take city health care, if they're an individual, that's a $320,000 savings. And if they are a family, that's up to a $1.2 million savings. That is the specific number that was in the executive branch's budget presentation at our joint meeting. I have fact-checked it. I confirmed it with the acting CFO today. It was assuming full staffing levels. So if in fact we could make any reduction, we should advocate for 100% of every single healthcare savings line to be reinvested back into our schools to prevent any other cut. And as we're looking at ways to reduce the $15 million, this to me is probably one of the best viable opportunities to do that, and we should make some legitimate assumptions that we can do that and advocate in a way that first and foremost gives the mayor some tools and some advocacy and some justification for why we're asking for every single one of these changes. So I have a lot more to say, but I'll pause there and ask us to really focus on these ideas and be really creative before accepting this, as I identified, kind of the D-level proposal and getting higher over the coming weeks before we submit this 2 weeks from today. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Freudberg. Up next, we have Deborah.
Can I just clarify
Oh, sure,
something?
sure, sure.
Sorry, Deborah. It is my understanding that we will get $6.2 million, whether it's $30 or $150 per student through Chapter 70. My understanding.
I mean, that's abnormal from the mayor's and CFO's perspective, so I'm sorry you have to carry that ridiculous assumption. That's not normal, and that's not how communities operate, and I'm sorry you're the messenger right here. Also, the former CFO gave us a $7 million number, so I'm not really sure how that went from 7 to 6.2, and it's not on you to explain that. And so we need to have some legitimate facts that for the first time in city history, the number the mayor has given has been reduced with no explanation.
Thank you. Do you want to respond, or should we go to?
Just really quick.
Sure.
Thank you for saying that, and thank you for saying that we are obligated to give you this document, because it's not us versus you or us versus them at all. As Dr. Tremblay said, this is not something we enjoy doing at all. So thank you for saying that. That's all.
All right. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to echo some of what Mr. Robles said. I'm also a former ESL student, and I received direct ESL support through the ESL program at Fuller. And as a student in the high school, I constantly see the fruition and just how much people benefit from the ESL program. And obviously, I've seen firsthand how critical these programs and services are. And when we look at the data, English language students are the ones with the lowest academic outcomes, with the highest absenteeism rates and highest retention rates. So this isn't just at the high school, this also extends to the middle schools and beyond. So my question is regarding more clarification on how exactly student need was weighted alongside enrollment when determining these reductions, not just in ESL staffing, but also like staffing. Thank you.
All right, first of all, I want your resume as soon as you graduate from college, because you're hired. I mean, that was just remarkable. And I have something for you before you leave that Robert's Rules of Order. I told you we had a little. Anyway, so I just had to throw that in there. So great question, outstanding question. And so, you know, we've got the Director of Multilingual Education, and we've got the Director of Special Education here as well, if we wanted to talk about specific services in different departments. But overall, it was about enrollment, and there are you know, guidelines, I guess, would be the appropriate word, although it sounds impersonal, but there are guidelines in terms of the number of students that are in a program or in a school, and how many staff members should be available to provide the services that those students need. Same thing with counseling support and things like that. So anything that is about social workers or school counseling or special education, or, well, in special education may have very specific needs depending on the student's IEPs and disabilities, but also same thing with supports for English for emergent bilingual students as well. So for all of them, a lot of it did boil down to what the enrollment is in the individual schools.
Do we need more of an explanation from the balcony, or is that any follow-up? Okay. Up next, we have Mr. Lewis.
Thank you all for being here tonight. A lot of our conversation so far has really focused on the reduction and the expense side of our budget, when, to my understanding, and again, I am a new member, we have not had great clarity on the revenue side. To have a decrease in revenue from $7 million to $6.2 million is hard enough to understand, but I don't know that moving forward with a budget without great clarity, with such drastic cuts to our staff, I don't know that it passes. I don't know how that helps our city move forward. And I know this is not on the school administrative side to figure out, but I would love for our city leadership and our city council to meet with us so that we can figure out the revenue side before we have to figure out any other piece of our budget. And I don't necessarily need an answer to any of this, but I also want to apologize to our teachers. I know that living with this stress about whether or not you'll have a job next year is hard. And my position never be subject to public review in the same way that yours are. And I am thankful for you all being here tonight, especially to our students. I know many of you have school tomorrow, including midterms. So thank you all for being here. Please stay engaged throughout this process.
Hold on, Kyle, we have one in front, but if you want to just raise your hand next time, it's fine. Up next, we have Mr. Labarge.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's a matter of getting the city council to go and re-examine themselves on priorities. They need to go and pretend that they're sending their kids to our schools. They also have to remember what it was like when they went to school. Was their school fully funded, or was it all hacked up like it's being proposed here? Because money doesn't want to be, someone don't want to go and pay money. It's like we either pay at the front end or we pay at the back end, and the back end is not pretty. It's pretty expensive, but it's not pretty for those who are wrapped up in it. And I'm talking like prison or other hardship that would come because they didn't get the education. We owe it to them, period. No ifs, ands, or buts. And all these rich folk who don't want to pay, I say shame on them. But because we're all in it together. Whatever happened to one is going to affect me as well. And also, like kids, some of these kids could end up, if we give them a chance, they could end up being the doctors who go and take care of us and give us a better quality of life while we're in our later years. If they don't have it, we don't have the care. It's just very important. God has given us responsibility for all of his children. We owe it to them. And I just hope that people can go and find the heart to come up with the money. Yes, I know that we may have to go and make some compromises as well, just in order to be able to make it work. But we do have to be able to discuss things in good faith, and I just pray that that does happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Labarge. Up next, Mr. Shepherd.
Thank you, and thank you for everybody for coming out and making your voices heard. It makes it easier to do the right thing and harder to do the wrong thing when we hear your voices. I have a question regarding the SAGE program at the elementary school level. I know that in the brief reading I've done, I'm obviously not a advanced degree in education policy like some other people here. So forgive me if I'm wrong on this, but what I've read briefly is that gifted programs, it's actually difficult to disentangle those things that are just the markers of affluence and the things that are the markers of intellectual talent. So I sent you a question earlier because I knew it might require some research. Can you talk about how in that SAGE program we ensure equity through the identification process, and whether that will be possible given to continue to have a high level of equity given these cuts?
So it's a great question, and it's actually something that we grappled with even in my time here, my prior time here in the district. I would say we're not there. We're not there in terms of equity. I already had the data that showed the comparable demographics of SAGE students in our schools compared to the overall demographics of the schools, and there's a disproportionate, there is not a proportionate number of SAGE students based on race or multilingual learner status. We do have a screening process. We've tried many different models. Currently, we do universal screening at the end of first grade, so in the spring of first grade, and there are two parts to this. One is that the SAGE teachers go into every first grade classroom and teach 2 30-minute lessons about thinking skills and thinking styles, and it's used to collect observational data about all students in the class. The second aspect is the administration of the COGAT, which is the Cognitive Abilities Test, which is a well-regarded screener for gifted students, gifted markers. But the systems are flawed, right? The systems are flawed. But those are used, and those two data points are combined. The observational data as well as the COGAT are combined to identify at the end of first grade students that the program feels would benefit from gifted programming. I would argue there's a lot that every student would benefit from that SAGE provides. I think what they do is remarkable, but I do think that all students would benefit from those. You talked about demographics, you talked about equity, so I did pull some data points. I could talk about any school that you wanted to speak to in particular, but for example, I'm going to put my glasses on so I get this correct. If we start with multilingual learners, I'll just give some examples. At Barberry, 57.7% of students are identified as multilingual learners, but 16.2% are in SAGE. And this is looking at 2nd through 5th grade students. The data, I will preface this with 57.7 students across all grade levels at Barberry are multilingual learners, but of the 2nd through 5th grade, only 16.2% of those students are in SAGE. At Brophy, it's 46.5% students are identified as multilingual learners, and 16.7% are in SAGE. McCarthy, 42.7% versus 8.3%. If we looked at Hispanic Latino students, at Barberry, 81% are identified as Hispanic Latino. 45.9% of the SAGE students identify as Hispanic Latino. At Stapleton, the differential is 51.2 compared to 14.3 that are in SAGE. McCarthy, 62.3% are Hispanic Latino. 27.8% of SAGE students are Hispanic Latino. On the flip side, the demographics go in the opposite direction. That discrepancy flips for white students. So at Dunning, 44.5% of students identify as white, but 64.4% of SAGE students are white. Hemingway, 43.1 versus 63.1 of the SAGE students. And I could go on and on. I could give you those demographics. And this is with all sorts of variations in terms of approaches that have been used to try and screen students. And I also just want to add on that parents can refer students, refer their children for evaluation, and teachers can as well. And so after first grade, once you're in 2nd grade and beyond, all the way through middle school, students can be referred for evaluation as well.
So thank you for getting that data. I worry that, with these, but I didn't see denominators on the chart, so I don't know what percentage of that staff is being reduced. But it sounds like we have a test, administration of a test versus observation, and it's clear that one of those requires a lot more work than the other.
In the spring, yes.
And that's also the observation side is probably where these discrepancies can often be corrected for, and I worry that reduction will further grow the inequity here.
Thank you for bringing that up. So right now, right now across the district, we have 8 SAGE teachers. 5 of them are at the elementary level, and the proposed model that is part of the budget is to reduce by 2. So right now, approximately 1 SAGE teacher for every 2 schools. Now it'll be 1 SAGE teacher for every 3 schools. So that's definitely going to be have an impact. We might have to start the screening process earlier so that those lessons can be delivered earlier in the first grade classes to accommodate that. We're at a point where we have to see where the budget lands and what decisions are made here by the school committee before we start tackling all of those additional logistics. But this was, again, looking at how are we going to support all of these necessary reductions. This was one of the ones that we considered.
Thank you.
All right, District 5, Ms. Dyer, and then we'll go back around for round 2.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wanted to just speak, and first I want to thank all of you for coming and your advocacy and your passion for this is really, really astonishing, and I'm really grateful that you're all here and that you were still here at almost 10 o'clock. But I just wanted to touch, I thought about this a lot when I saw the list of cuts, and I actually wrote something up, but I'm not going to read it because it's 9:44. But I wanted to just mention the issue of the McKinney-Vento Clinical Care Coordinator, which is a cut that maybe none of you are familiar with. But it's a very important position to think about because the McKinney-Vento Clinical Coordinator is a person who supports our 449 identified homeless students. It's more than likely that we have a lot more than that in the district, but we're only aware of 449. And some people would say, well, that number's gone down, and that's true, it has, and I think that probably has a lot to do with enrollment going down generally, but also the fact that people are not coming out and enrolling in school, and we don't know why that number is lower. At least I'm not aware of it. But McKinney-Vento is a federal civil rights law that provides protection for students who are experiencing homelessness. And what it does is the McKinney-Vento Clinical Coordinator is the person that is going to support those homeless students and families to get transportation, health care, get enrolled in school, first of all, health care, dental services, mental health, housing, and any other services they might need. So 449 identified homeless students in the district and 1 person who is coordinating the supports for those folks. In addition to that, our McKinney-Vento coordinator, who's been, not the person, I'm not speaking of the person, I'm speaking of the position. We've had that in the district for, I think, maybe over 10 years. And Framingham has been a model, a program, and our clinical coordinator has always been a regional technical assistance specialist for Worcester and Middlesex counties. In addition, that position is the point of care contact for all of our foster care students, and we have 69 of those in the district. So when I look at this, and as I looked at all the other cuts, I just want to make sure that we are thinking about centering equity and belonging, as our strategic plan calls us to do, in the decisions that we make about the unfortunate cuts that will have to be made. And this is a position that requires specialized expertise, program continuity, and regional leadership built over time that will be hard to absorb in other positions, which is, I believe, is the plan. So I'm just going to advocate for that group of students who haven't had a voice here tonight and may not have had a voice any other time. And encourage us to continue to think about the decisions that we make and uphold our shared values of equity, belonging, and relationship-based support for our most vulnerable students. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dyer, so much. We'll go to Ms. Moshe for round 2, and we have a couple in line for round 2. Thank you.
Thank you. So the big thing is we're down 700 kids. It's almost 690. I don't think that number's changed, Lincoln. Has that number gone up from 2 weeks ago?
As of today, it's 687 students down compared to October 1 of 2024.
With those 680 students, has anybody looked at what has been impacted the most? Is it ESL? Is it special ed? Is it core classes? Is it, has it been looked at as a whole to see where decreases potentially could be to start off with? If that makes sense. Maybe I'm not saying it clear enough, but if we're down 700 kids and say 20% had special needs, are we looking at those areas to see if is that where the decreases can come from first?
If it's all right, I'll get started on that. So the recommendations in this proposal, the Department of Multilingual Education, Department of Special Education, any of those reductions are based on enrollment. So if you see a reduction in special education, if you see a reduction in ESL, it has to do with either the services that we already anticipate needing for next year because we know about IEP needs for next year, or it's because we've seen the decrease in enrollment and those directors were on board with, based on the enrollment, what these proposed cuts are.
Thank you. That's helpful.
Up next, we're back to Deborah, and then Mr. Labarge.
I had a question that sort of builds on what was already said here about SAGE, but has any research or any observation been done to look into the correlation between underfunding and increase in lower proficiency rates, and again, repeating what I already said, like retention rates and all of that? Has any of that been done? And my other question is, if this budget draft is potentially passed today, what actions or approaches will be taken to sort of meet that success gap that exists for students? And I mean, as you go down the line, the gap just increases if you put like English language learner students into the line and students with disabilities, like that gap just increases between like success and, yeah.
I seriously am ready to hire you. You're asking fantastic questions. These are great questions, and these are things that in the Office of Teaching and Learning that we're dealing with on a daily basis. I had a meeting with the high school administration today, and we were looking at student data, we were looking at classroom observation data, and we were specifically talking about language objectives and the importance of every teacher having language objectives in their classrooms so that not only do the students and teacher know what the academic content and skill is that they need to master, they know what language practices they are going to be using to get to that final outcome that day. So these are conversations that happen regardless. You might be aware, or you might not be aware, that at the high school there's been, I think, it's a monumental shift in the way instruction is being delivered for content-specific courses, the core content areas at the high school for emergent bilingual students. And that is to use a co-taught model so that there aren't classes where emergent bilingual students are separated from other students, and they actually have peer models that are speaking English with them in the classroom that they can have conversations with and they can engage with in their learning, while there's an additional teacher, an ESL teacher in the classroom to provide the supports for the language development that the student needs to have. So these are things that we're doing anyway, regardless of the budget. And so those are, again, anything that has to do with ESL or special ed, those staffing reductions were taken into consideration specifically based on the enrollment. And so if the enrollment hasn't dropped, then those positions won't be lost at that school either. I don't know if that answered your question. You can ask a follow-up question. No, I'm encouraging. I'm encouraging, not goading. Okay.
Can I just offer something as well on that? And I think Ms. Ludis pointed it out quite right, but hearing you too, I think it also presupposes that the ratios were correct in the first place, right? So if you're scaling the organization by needs, if you have less students who need multilingual support, and you kept the same ratio of staffing, I mean, you could imagine a situation where we could double down on our effort, right? We have less students, but we have more staffing to provide additional support. We could actually make some forward traction. So I think philosophically, there's a real opportunity there. As a practical matter, though, can we afford it? And I think that's where it comes in, is the budget saying that we can't. So it's not a philosophical, because I would say that our caseloads are going to be probably proportionate. And that's why the scaling has been done for students on IEPs or students who have multilingual needs. And so it's scaled. But arguably, the ratio is already high and demanding of our support staff, right? So I hear what you're asking and sort of that underfunding side of it. And it comes down to what's affordable. But I would say that this budget, although difficult for all the reasons that have been mentioned, is scaled proportionately to the students that have left the district and what the actual caseload is. But whether or not the caseload was correct in the first place or sufficient in the first place, I think is a different question, right? So I just wanted to acknowledge that. It's a slightly different version of the same story, but one worth acknowledging. Thank you, Deborah.
So how necessarily was like need identified? Was it based on like student-teacher ratio? That would,
Student-teacher ratio, or students who've left the district that we know have left the district, and the supports that they were provided. So that was how you were able to scale what the need was, right?
All right, up next, Mr. Labarge, followed by Ms. Tovar.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, just thinking in terms of like cutting back on different staff, where we should not be cutting back. I'll give an example. Cutting back on a teacher, which when we eliminate that teacher, we totally eliminate that program, that course, whatever, altogether. That is something I would rather avoid, like with a Mandarin with only one teacher, which then we lay that teacher off, we have none. That's not good. If we have like several math teachers and you end up having a lot of students, which you end up having fewer students in the math class, which you might have to cut back on a math teacher here and there, but just can't go and cut out the last person on a given program unless there's a good reason why we should do it. But I can't think of any reason to go and cut out Mandarin on that. So it's just a matter of like focusing on cuts on which will have the least negative impact on the students when a given staff is cut back. But I feel like I'm be repeating myself, but we just have to be careful because the parents out here, they're our boss. And they're telling us we need to be able to see their kids get their education. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next, Ms. Tovar, followed by Mr. Freudberg.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I understand that with the drop in enrollment, there would also be a drop in the services that we need to provide, so there has to be some balance, right? If we have a significant drop in students, then that means that we should also be able to find some balance. However, I do want to echo what Ms. Dyer mentioned about the McKinney-Vento position. I would strongly ask you to consider or deem this position essential. Because again, as she mentioned, it is really the point person who will represent all of the children who need it the very most. So I just wanted to mention that. And then I'm still thinking about the non-union positions and COLA, et cetera. And I also I'm curious because I was looking at the org chart, and thank you for sending me all the information today. But I'm just very curious and just want to have the answer for this. Because we will have a reduction in staff too, I would imagine that our human resources, since they're being diminished, do we need two directors for HR to, we have a director and an associate director. I'm just using them as an example. I don't know. Well, I know the director for HR, but I don't know the associate director. So I'm just curious about how the non-union positions, again, were looked at. Could you tell us a little bit more about that? I'm sorry if I'm being repetitive, but I'm just coming back to my thoughts from earlier. Thank you.
I mean, I would say every position was looked at, and looking at, a lot of the work that falls to when you reduce these positions, it's falling, the work exists, right? The caseloads exist, more is falling to those central office employees. We've reduced now, over 3 years, this will be up to about 40 central office. I think sort of picking on non-union because they don't have a bargaining unit is really an unfortunate discussion to be having. I mean, we can go in whatever direction the committee wants to go in, but we came up with a proposal. If we want to now pick different positions, we'll have different people at the podium saying why that's more valuable. So I think it's just a matter of, okay, we can come back to the drawing board. That's certainly what we're prepared to do if that's what the committee wishes to do. But what we've come up with here, and I don't disagree, everyone could argue, every person could argue why that position is critical to the organization, whether it's student-facing or not student-facing, bargaining or non-bargaining. And so I guess the question is, where do we go? What is the number that we need to reduce to? Because we don't have that clarity, and we're 2 weeks out.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think I'm asking these questions more so for our constituents to understand how you actually got to those conclusions, and so how were they looked at, and maybe we don't have to do a deep dive here, but I think it is important to have an explanation for how every single position was considered and looked at. When we're deciding to keep a position in central admin versus eliminate the McKinney-Vento position. I think just the logic there is just missing for me, and I think for many of our constituents probably as well.
I see that Courtney has emerged on the screen. I guess that means that you'd like to, Madam Chair, if it's okay?
Yes, go ahead. Thank you, Courtney.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Dr. Tremblay. I wanted to just take a moment, Ms. Tovar, to respond to your concerns that you raised and Ms. Dyer's, and also try to attempt at answering one of your questions around specifically, like how do we get to a proposal of like a McKinney-Vento coordinator, just to provide some context of what was looked at. But before I begin, I just very much appreciate, understand, and agree with the concerns and considerations that both of you have raised. And it's really important to share that this proposal is made both due to the reductions of our actual numbers of McKinney-Vento and foster care students that are enrolled in the district, but also we understand that any reduction to this position has to be paired with careful consideration of preserving and protecting the services and maintaining legal and compliance obligations for those students. And just to reiterate that any discussion of this particular position is in no way a reflection of our lack of value for the staff member currently in the role or the role itself. It's truly a reflection of a review of those services and pathways towards addressing a gap, and it's certainly one we don't wish we have to consider. Separately, as someone who I care deeply about this population of students, as do many of my colleagues, and I worked myself for the Department of Children and Families for over 4 years within working within Family Resource, which is our foster care unit that places children in trained foster homes, as well as working as a school social worker for over a decade. I know personally how important it is to ensure that our students in foster care and who are experiencing homelessness are not overlooked and supported. And through conversations with our Director of Health and Wellness, myself, and our Director of Community Partnerships, whichever direction we go, whether the position is cut in the end or is not, we are committed to ensuring that those students continue to be so supported and that there's not a reduction in those services. But to get at just a couple pieces, certainly I could talk at length for quite some time, and it is a bit late, but just to share a couple pieces of consideration as we looked at this particular position, because I know you had asked that, Ms. Tovar. So we have had a significant steady decline of enrollment of McKinney-Vento and foster care students since 2022, actually. Annually, we've lost about 60 to 100 students. So we're down approaching 40% from where we were. Our current enrollment actually is a bit lower than Ms. Dyer, the number you had, just due to additional withdrawals of students in the district this year as well. So our current enrollment as of today is 377. Every one of those 377 students matters tremendously. And so that's not to diminish the importance of that. And our focus does need to be there. And separately, McKinney-Vento transportation costs remain high for a number of reasons. And so largely being when we transport students from McKinney-Vento, they're transported in and out of Framingham, if they're residing out of Framingham to Framingham, and if they're residing in Framingham but going to like out of district schools or to their districts of origin or to special education schools, we are required by law, and we use vendors for that individually. And so there are a number of factors that maintain those costs pretty high, although there's been that slight decrease that Mr. Lynch had talked about. But I just want to make that note. Another consideration we looked at was that the McKinney-Vento coordinator position was created pre-COVID, and actually before we had district-based wraparound coordinators who now provide a significant amount of like the resource navigation responsibilities, access to community supports, financial assistance, clothing, food access, and those types of services. And there's some overlap there with the work of those wraparound coordinators and the McKinney-Vento coordinator. So part of the consideration is about eliminating areas of redundancy and inefficiency. A model that is typically used, I think like the ideal model is the model we have, right, with a McKinney-Vento coordinator who is dedicated to that role. But when you look at our DART districts, which are the districts that DESE designates as comparable districts, out of the 10 DART districts we have, which are like Boston, New Bedford, Fall River, only 3 out of those 10 districts have a main dedicated McKinney-Vento coordinator role. The remainder use a delegated support model where there's a main point who manages and oversees and ensures that all the students and families continue to be supported. And that's usually a director of student supports, an assistant superintendent of student supports, directors of family engagement, or community partnerships. Or sometimes it's a registrar, a director of like a parent information center in our comparable districts. And so it is a common operational approach if it's necessitated budgetarily, although I completely agree that the ideal way to manage that is through having a dedicated position. And at the same time, like we're in a really difficult budget situation that I think we all wish we were not in. But we are committed that students will remain strongly supported, and we will have to shift and really explicitly and carefully think about how to partner, myself, the Director of Community Partnerships, and our Director of Health and Wellness, to ensure we have tight coordination and a team that supports these students if this position is eliminated, as well as systems in place for monitoring and care coordination and ensuring that there's clear role responsibilities and role division so that students do not fall through the cracks if this position is eliminated. So we're certainly not proposing to do less for students. It's really about looking at a team model, and it is one that some districts use quite successfully, although agreed, it is a really important position, and this group of students are incredibly important, and we don't argue that whatsoever. So I hope that answers your question about some of the things that we considered as we looked at that particular position.
All right, thank you. Just be mindful of the time. We're going to keep the conversation going, but just to kind of interrupt all, I think it might be in our best interest to look at next week and have a continued discussion on this, just being mindful. And we do have an actual, an additional agenda that there are some items that we need to also attend to tonight before they kick us out. So up next, we have Mr. Freudberg, and there are a couple more for round 2. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for recognizing me again. I want to go back to the enrollment conversation to learn a little more and maybe encourage the district to let me know if you've already thought of it or think of it slightly differently. You know, what I mean by this is in good enrollment years, such as the 2023-24 budget process, Framingham saw 415 new students, resulting Chapter 70 increases and 53.5 new positions. If you look at that list of the 53.5 new positions from that year, some of them were investing in strategic plan enhancements and had nothing to do with enrollment, and that's great, and I'm not talking about those positions. But there were some that were specifically created that were justified in the budget book as, because of class size rules and because of this, we are now proposing this position. And because of surging enrollment in this area, we're now proposing that position. Those type of reductions now in the opposite time, while I don't like it, like those make more sense to me versus the shell type trying to fit a puzzle piece and, you know, causing this concern around things such as drama and chorus and sage and Mandarin and some of the other programs you heard tonight in no particular order, like the HVAC technician. We still need clean air no matter how many kids are in our school. Communications director, you know how much I feel like that's essential. That communication is one of the district's top challenges. And, you know, those are the type of things that I know we cannot have at all. But I look at this and I'm really wondering if we can tie every single reduction specifically to enrollment as part of our next phase going forward. And if we cannot, 100% enrollment reason, then we go all in, hopefully as a team, and advocate to save every single position that would be eliminated and go to those revenue ideas and the other ideas going forward. I also think that there are some things that haven't been told to us that were looked at. I know you looked at everything. I'm not saying you weren't comprehensive, but to some of the earlier points that were mentioned, you know, is there a reduction in certain services such as the registration desk? I know there are some cuts there. That's one example. Are there others that are not cut in the budget? I'm not going to mention any because I think that's a challenge, but you know what I'm saying around, are there other areas that are not proposed for any central office-like cuts that could have, you know, there'll be impacts, but are there ways to reduce the pain by looking at a couple departments in the central office who are not on this list. And I also want to look a little bit, this could be a random idea. What's the budget for iReady? I don't mean, I have some mixed feelings on iReady. I'm not advocating either way, but are there things like that could be paused a little bit? If it's a big number that could save some positions? I mean, it's a worthy conversation during a crisis like this.
While he looks that up, can I just say a couple of things about iReady? First of all, we are mandated by the state to have a dyslexia screener, and this serves as our dyslexia screener. So the diagnostic assessment tool, that portion of it, which is a substantial portion of the cost, we would have to replace it with something else. And iReady is actually beneficial in that it gives us 3 times a year, it gives us benchmark data about student performance. So it helps us identify students that might need tier 2 or tier 3 interventions. So I would be very, very, very reluctant to pull that back. In addition, we used to have, and I know nobody wants to go back to those days, we used to have an iReady instructional tool that was not just available, but used by essentially every student in grades in elementary and middle school. We have scaled that back, and now it's only provided to students who are now considered 2 or more years behind grade level, and it's about we pay for about a third of the students at each school to have access to that. So we have scaled back iReady, but I do want to caution that we cannot just eliminate iReady entirely. It provides the diagnostic data is incredibly important to our schools and the instructional decisions that are made at each school for students, for individual students, but also because we need that dyslexia screener at the elementary level.
Yeah, I mean, that's a rational answer, right? I'm raising it to make a point that, are there programs like that could somehow be paused without impacting the required dyslexia screening there. Again, it could be unnecessary and unneeded, but I would rather, reduce an operating expense than a person. And so that's the justification for me going there, putting aside that I recognize the impact that iReady has and the data that it gives and some positive benefits, knowing there are also a lot of other mixed feelings about it. I just raise it as a point of, are there other technology programs or technology support desk that's based on enrollment that we don't need as much anymore? Like, we have to do whatever it takes to preserve some of the core services that were talked about tonight and the core impacts. Even if services are technically preserved, we all, I wanted to be at the podium, as an unelected official, right? I mean, that was awesome, the advocacy we saw, but it's also terrible that it has to happen. And so I think we really need to team up and decide, as the chair just mentioned, maybe it's next week at our potential bonus meeting, or at least in 2 weeks, what are the specific votes that we can take to protect and advocate going forward? So that's what we need to get to some solutions. Thank you.
All right, up next we have, who's first?
Can I
We'll go with-
respond?
Go ahead.
Sorry,
yeah.
Madam Chair. I would just argue, Mr. Freudberg, just a couple things. So you mentioned central office and if services can be reduced. We've reduced 27 positions in the last 2 years. We're adding another 14 to the list. So assistant directors have basically been wiped out. We've looked at every department. We've talked to directors. We're not losing 700 staff members. Unfortunately, if this goes through, it's 116. We still have 1,800 staff members. Investigations have to happen. I know HR was mentioned earlier. Investigations have to happen. Meetings with staff members, negotiations. The list goes on with the HR duties, with the size of our district, even with these reductions. So I would argue that we wouldn't be able to reduce those services in HR. We're up to 41 positions at central office being reduced. So I would argue we've looked at all these positions. We've spent more time than I can count talking about every position, every non-bargaining position, going through it. And you see there are 14 reductions here. We've looked at expenses. iReady, it's $110,000. But we've reduced, OTL has reduced already $100,000. We have said no new initiatives going into next year. We've reduced expense budgets. So I would argue we have already cut back on everything that we can quote unquote do without going into next year. I think it would be a struggle to cut more into the $1.3 million that we've already cut.
Thank you. Up next, Mr. Shepherd, followed by Mr. Robles.
I can hold my question until next week. I know we're going to keep talking about this.
Sure. And District 1, Rich Robles.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a quick question. We have not talked about athletics, and I know that's probably mostly for the high school, but how are athletics being affected by this?
Athletics are not on the staffing side. They did cut 10% of their budget on the expense side.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody for round two? I think we need to stop at some point for round two and then pick up this conversation on another meeting. Mr. Lewis, go ahead.
And just quickly, I know we've been talking about the reducing enrollment that we're experiencing, but as I look at the proposed cuts, a lot of our elementary schools have not seen a significant decrease, certainly nothing more statistically valid than we could see in normal turnover from year to year. So I think what would be helpful for me as a new member, given the conversation that we are having, is to have a conversation. I realize how much work this is, so I'm hesitant to say it. But looking at the capacity that our schools really need to provide level services, given the enrollment changes, I appreciate that you tried to sort of spread out the hardship that is this budget. But our goal as a school committee is to advocate for our students and our students' needs, not just because our budget is hard.
Thank you. Would you like to respond?
Yeah, I guess I'm just wondering what the request is. And can I just say, the enrollment is different at the secondary versus elementary. That's why you see elementary, the average cut at the elementary school is 3.5 positions, while at the secondary, it's 17.5. So we definitely, at length, looked at enrollment at each school and made sure to make those reductions proportionate based on class sizes and the enrollment at each individual school versus the total enrollment drop. So, sorry, I'm just wondering what you would like us to do moving forward.
And perhaps it's more a political question than a question of budget, and something that we will have to wrestle with.
Okay.
I'll give it more thought. Thank you.
Understood, thanks.
Right, and then joint city finance, city council finance is happening next, on the 27th with our finance and ops. So I heard revenue projections, city revenue, any other thoughts going into the joint city finance and school committee finance committee? Go ahead.
I'm glad you raised this. As we think about, our audience who's sitting through a very long and important meeting, I'm not advocating that we adjourn anytime soon, is to simply say that we should know exactly what we want to do on Tuesday. Tuesday is the annual joint meeting with the school committee finance subcommittee and the city council finance subcommittee, and it's scheduled at a very critical time based on tonight, so I'm glad it's happening. So next Tuesday, 5 p.m. in this room. As for the meeting packet, I would recommend that Mr. Lynch's memo on current fiscal year projections go in, as well as the draft budget book, as well as the PowerPoint slide. And then finally, the superintendent's email that went out to all staff. Over 2,000 people received it. It's out there. It's a public record. All of that, to me, would shape the proper materials that the city council and the public should have in advance of that meeting. And then we should recap and not assume they watch this meeting, and then report out on what the public comment was like and what our discussions are like, and just seek some feedback on what we can do to understand they have an obligation for the entire city, as we do in a different way, but to really explain why more revenue is necessary to support our school district's needs, and how legitimately scary a level funded budget means, because level funded, you might not think it, is a terrible reduction of services and people. So that, to me, should be the themes and the actual packet materials. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for your suggestions. And then also to think of questions that you want to ask City Council, certified city, free cash numbers, city revenues. If you think of anything that you want brought up in that meeting, please reach out. Okay, any last comments on the budget? Go ahead, topic.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Maybe it's more just a clarification. So we've presented, we've laid all sort of the cards on the table to the staff, to the school committee, to the public. It sounds like there's various, understandably, questions that still remain and clarity that's needed. We have a short window of time. We're meeting again in a week. Where do we go from here? Where do Lincoln and I and our team, because if there's more notifications to give to other staff, if they're going to be discussed in a public forum, we want to have, I think even though it's been difficult, I think we've been honest with our staff, and I want to continue that. If we're going to have discussions about other positions that we've not put forward in this, then we want to have those discussions with those staff members. But we can't, I don't think, practically in a meeting, go through every employee of the Framingham Public Schools and determine whether or not that aligns with the enrollment and whether or not that's a position we want to fund or give a raise to. It's going to be an impossible task. So I guess the question I have is, what do we do tonight in sort of school committee in one voice so we have our marching orders? Because it's going to be very difficult to come back with anything of material substance that informs a discussion and ultimately a vote when there's a lot of opinions in the room. And I know this is hard, but we got to go back and make this work so we give something back to the school committee. I just need to know what that is that we're producing. And I'm not sure I'm clear on that between now and the time we adjourn this discussion.
Well, based on kind of the tone of this discussion, I don't think if we were to put it to a vote tonight, this budget would pass. I think there are programs that need to be reconsidered, not taking a vote, speaking mostly as a member, but also taking the feedback of everyone tonight. I think it's helpful for us to have another meeting to go through and maybe make some progress. I asked last meeting for expenses, if there's any cuts to expenses. That's an easy bucket for us. I think, it's we're going to get the lights shut off on us in a little bit if we don't wrap up soon. We have other items that we have to get to tonight. But I think it's helpful for us if we could probably get that done quickly. Expenses, we can look at that. I'm sure we can. It's not people, it's not kids, it's not programs. I think it's a little bit easier to stomach, reducing costs here and there. Also, the vacant positions, as recommended by building principals that are not currently filled, I think is another easier bucket to look at. But then there's really some difficult conversations for us about these positions. And I happen to side with the voices that speak against city council. Like, we need to go to the mayor and say that this is not a feasible number for us. And that thank you. And that this is part of it. And it's a very shortened timeline. But unfortunately, they need to be part of this conversation. And I don't want to speak for the group, but I think we're kind of getting some head nods here that that we need to go back to them and see if there's any wiggle room with this, because I don't know. Anyone want to add to that? It's been a long night. Go ahead, Adam.
Well said, Madam Chair. Again, as one voice, just because I say it doesn't mean it's going to happen. But if I had it my way, tonight I would vote to accept Mr. Lynch's motion to reduce the department expense budget as proposed the last couple of meetings at 1.291486. So $1,200,000 and change, rounding up to almost 1.3. I think that is a reasonable cut that is not going to have the terrible impacts that some other cuts will have. So to me, that is the easy one that we could make progress on tonight. And then for the next couple weeks, we should closely track the bipartisan congressional bill and the avoidance of a shutdown, a federal government shutdown, I hope, that will have a resolution that will allow us to hopefully preserve that $525,000 of Title III and other federal funding that I believe, again, as I mentioned earlier, the bipartisan budget is on track. So that, again, could hopefully be a multi-100K allocation we could put back to preserving positions. And then it comes down to the $4.7 million of reduction of teaching staff line and maybe a couple of lines that we should just continue the conversation. And we can't do that tonight. And I think that Tuesday with the city council, well, it's not all of us, it's at least the finance teams of both public bodies can have a really good conversation. And they're not going to be able to solve the problem for us, but we can at least talk about it. And the executive branch comes to all finance subcommittee meetings on the city council. So I would expect it'll be a good joint discussion. So just to recap, tonight we should vote on expenses, and we should just be ready for the conversations in the weeks ahead to take specific votes and get that from what I call that kind of D-level, almost worst case scenario back to a more reasonable level. And to answer Dr. Tremblay's question, one final point. Maybe, just maybe, you could have a tiered approach. What you propose tonight is that D level. What's the C? What's the B? Go up. What could we possibly present and give the mayor specific reasons to support us and explain why he's going to have to do something he may not want to do, but he can realize it's worth it. And what are the positions that could be saved because of our action together with the mayor, who is a former PTO president, strong supporter. He's doing what he can. And we just need to give him the specific rationale for why any of the positions in any categories we are working to save. And we can't solve that tonight, and I know that it's probably going to be frustrating for some who are tuned in, but this is a weeks-long process that we're in the middle of right now. Thanks.
Is that helpful? Would you like a motion to? Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of the materials for Tuesday's meeting. So I submitted the budget book tonight, and that has all of the reductions. So I guess I just need some direction. Am I going back, putting everything back in, changing the entire budget book, and submitting it with the expense reductions, changing the presentation as well?
Seems like a lot of work.
It's a lot of work, but I mean,
I would say
it is what it is.
duplicate the packet materials that we have tonight, because there haven't been any changes to it.
Okay.
To clarify, I think we're on the same page. The previous materials that are already done from a couple weeks ago that have the $15 million increase could be submitted as one artifact, and then tonight as a new one. You could give them both. Is that what you're saying? To kind of show them.
Well, I think we also need to be mindful of the workload of what this would be if he recreated the whole entire.
No, not the
Say
budget
that again?
book,
Okay.
the PowerPoint. The PowerPoint that was done in a recent meeting that shows the $15 million aspect, just to show the council where we are in the A to the D is kind of the range that might be easier. It's already a public record. You don't need to do any new work.
Yeah,
That
so
might
include both.
As long as you clearly explain, maybe do a cover memo to explain the packet that they're reading so they understand why they're getting some other materials from the past.
Didn't they already get that in the last joint meeting? Right, it's changed, but they've
A
already
friendly
gotten the
reminder would be
I
helpful.
think they got the
to kind
$15
of
million
Not assume
presentation.
people
Yeah.
remember.
Okay, so I'll include both presentations, the budget book that was submitted here.
The email that went out, that
Yep.
sent out to
Yep.
Dr. Tremblay.
Yep, okay, understood.
In context to what we heard tonight and the risks and long-term repercussions of the cuts that were part of the plan.
The recap of tonight's feedback.
I'm Chair.
Go ahead.
And just a friendly reminder, I think that your memo on the current fiscal year is also really important to show them the level of depth you give us and that type of
What's
kind of status that I hope is replicated on other departments. And then, Dr. Tremblay, just consider, you've written memos to the city council in the past that have been well received, that are very helpful to kind of summarize the situation. So I'll close, some kind of a cover memo I think would be very helpful. Not just for the counselors, they get it, they're probably watching, but anyone involved who just needs that recap of where things are, I think would be helpful. Thank you.
Right. All right, are we good moving on from this topic?
Do we need that motion to approve Mr. Lynch's expense
We could do
reduction?
it now.
Or do we
or
want to just bake that into the budget and vote on it, as part of the overall budget too? I know he asked for it last meeting, we didn't do it. That's the only reason I'm bringing it up, in case it helps.
I recommend the latter. Don't vote on it.
Okay.
Don't vote on it tonight.
So we're going to move on with the regular scheduled agenda right now. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so there are a couple other important things that we have on the agenda. So announcements from the chair, school building committee meets on 126, another school building committee in 226, joint finance I mentioned. Huge thank you to everyone for coming, thank you. Next, we're going to go to the superintendent's, student advisory committee remarks. I'll turn it over to Deborah for your remarks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To begin with some sports updates for tonight, boys hockey has had an immense stretch of games over the past few weeks. The team has earned multiple victories, including wins against Wesley, Braintree, Weymouth, Brookline, and Algonquin. One of the highlights included a strong win against Algonquin, 7-1. Their next game is against Milton High School this Saturday, so congratulations to the team and best of luck as the season continues. Moving on to some school-wide updates. 3 FHS robotic teams competed against 41 other teams this last Saturday. The team 942-1M received the Design Award, one of the top judged awards at the event, and the team, in addition, also advanced to the quarterfinals during the elimination round. Furthermore, the Repertory Dance Ensemble will be performing this Saturday at 7 p.m. in the FHS auditorium. The community is encouraged to attend and support student performers, and tickets are available online at cur8.com. I would also like to recognize the FHS Red Cross Club for hosting an outstanding blood drive. The club collected 29 units of blood, the highest total ever recorded at an FHS blood drive. This achievement reflects the dedication, the leadership, and organization these students put into this event. And building off of this slide, I would like to give a special shout out to the Red Cross Club advisor, Ms. Miller, as well as all the Red Cross Club members who worked so hard for weeks to make this event possible and so successful. Framingham High School is halfway through midterms this week, so I would like to wish all students the best of luck on their upcoming exams. As far as for Student Advisory Council updates, this week we began elementary school visits across the Framingham District to meet with elementary student councils. We are very excited to continue connecting with younger student leaders and continue strengthening student voice throughout the district. That's all I've got for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll go to superintendent's update. I'll turn it over to Dr. Tremblay.
Real quick, Madam Chair.
Sure.
Can we dismiss all the directors and principals?
Yes,
that are in the
absolutely. Thank you for sticking around.
Thank you all for coming.
Except for those people who have to comment on the next part of the agenda.
Right.
Please. Lincoln, go ahead and dismiss everybody. All right. Thank you, Madam Chair. A little levity to the program. Unfortunately, the audience has left because we want to give a quick shout out here tonight. I want to thank James, if you and If you want to both come up, at least to the table here. So Pat Gilman is the vice principal at King Elementary School. James Bergeron is the principal of King Elementary School. We're going to move through this very quickly, and it's a late night for you both as well. Thank you for your patience. I had the privilege, as was announced recently, yesterday at the State House. It was yesterday, right? Okay, yeah. These days run one into the other. King Elementary School is among the 63 overall schools across the Commonwealth that was recognized for student achievement and growth. And I just wanted to acknowledge that this is the certificate that was presented, the certificate of recognition. King Elementary School, for recognition is a 2025 School of Recognition by the department. So it was the Secretary of Education, Tutwiler was there, and the Commissioner of Education, Pedro Martinez. Don't get excited, Mr. Freudberg, not that Pedro Martinez. And so it was quite an honor to be there among those, and I had the chance to sit next to you. So I don't know if you want to comment quickly. I know that maybe some of the King staff may be tuned in on Zoom. If you are, thank you for staying so late with us tonight. But I want to personally acknowledge both of you. I know that on behalf of our entire leadership team in the district and your staff, we're so proud of the work that you've done. It's unfortunate we don't have the audience here to hear that tonight, and thank you for allowing us to take the agenda out of order for the budget conversation, which did need to happen. But I'll turn it to you in case you have a comment or two you'd like to make, but otherwise I wanted to just acknowledge this in front of the school committee tonight and in front of the public.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Tremblay. Thank you, school committee, for allowing us to be here tonight. It is a great honor. It really is. Our staff, our students, our families worked really, really hard to get to this point of this recognition. And, I think when we talk about King as this special place and this place that we want to be in that we genuinely believe that all of our students can and will achieve at high levels with appropriate supports. And to hold that so true, and to see it really come out in the accountability data in this recognition, it means a lot. And I just really genuinely have to credit the hard work of our staff, our students, and their families for really helping us to get there. Oh, give Pat a chance if he wants to say anything.
I'll keep it quick. I know it's been a long night, but I agree with James. People worked really, really hard, and you could see the collective efficacy of everyone in the building. Last year was my first year at King, and it was my favorite year I've worked in education. And it was just really great to see the work that everyone put in together.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you all.
So I asked them to bring the certificate back to me so that I could present it sort of on behalf of the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. But this is an example of moving the needle, and it's just nice to be able to celebrate that with the school committee this evening. So thank you both for coming out tonight. Once again, congratulations.
Thank you, and thank you for staying so late.
Thank you very much. I'll move on to the next is the update on mental health supports. And this came from the alarm incident at the high school, and I know that Courtney Blocka is back on screen to give us some of the metrics around this resource offering and where we intend to go or recommend going at this point, given the incident and where we are now in 2026.
Thank you, Dr. Tremblay, and thank you to the committee for allowing me the opportunity to provide a brief update. I will try to provide a brief summary for those committee members that were not yet members of the committee. But in response to the active shooter false alarm in February of 23, which was very distressing and terrifying because it felt real for all of those who experienced it, we did put a number of supports into place, including one of those supports was an access to a confidential centralized counseling support through central office should staff or students need it. And research, I'm going to provide a very brief synopsis, but research on recovery after traumatic events indicates that those that do develop those mental health and related support needs tend to experience those in the first days, weeks, months, and year after the event. And over time, with support routines, structures, and natural social supports, which are key protective factors, most individuals will experience recovery and healing across like a 2 to 3 year period following an incident. In Framingham, our experience with staff and students accessing services has aligned with that pattern. So in the months and the first year following the event, we had supports through our FHS counseling staff, and then at central office, 4 staff members had access counseling through our central office support clinician. Those 4 received those services through June of 2024. Since June of 2024, no students or additional staff members have requested additional counseling from the district support clinician, which is what we would expect and anticipate based on our general knowledge and understanding of the healing process and recovery timelines for individuals who experience an event such as that. That doesn't mean there are outliers, and so we will continue to have a clinician available. I believe the committee's motion was that we provide those services for 5 years post-event, and we are committed to maintaining that, in addition to the district having an employee assistance program available, which is a third-party service, but staff can access that for counseling sessions as well. And so we will continue to offer it regardless of utilization, both the EAP and district supports, and would ask the committee if you'd like me to continue to come providing updates. I don't anticipate additional numbers to add to report out, and certainly could come back to the committee if the committee desires for me to continue to provide those updates, or I could come back if there's an increase in need that we're experiencing. So I would share that with you for discussion, and I'm also happy to answer any questions, and thank you.
Not sure if any questions or any further action is needed at this point. I know there was a proposal on the long-range agenda to have this, we would take off that agenda, but I'm not sure if it's something you want to do now or wait and table that to when that topic comes up.
Any discussion? It's in rules too.
It's
Okay.
in rules,
We'll wait
yeah.
for it's coming. Yeah.
Okay. And then finally, I'm going to dispense with any additional announcements for tonight. We think we've had a lot of those. But the last item is the summer programming review. This is under policy ICHA, requires that all summer programs will be subject to annual approval by the school committee. We have like feet of snow still ahead of us coming, but yet we're talking about summer, so we can be hopeful and wishful. So we'll let Heather McCormick, who's on screen, who's the director of our expanded learning time, just to speak to, and maybe it's an abbreviated presentation if you don't mind this evening. Thank you so much, Heather, for being here with us at nearly 11 o'clock at night. Thank you.
My pleasure. And yes, we will keep this short, sweet, and positive. Thank you all so much for having me. And yes, I'm really excited to hopefully end on a high note with just an update, a preview of what we're hoping to offer this summer for our summer learning. And sorry, slideshow, that's the right button. Okay, so really quickly, I only have a few slides, but I just think it's really important to share that we did send out a caregiver survey to all of the families in the district and got nearly 600 responses regarding caregivers' priorities for summer programming, and we used that data very actionably as we put together this plan. And so there have been a lot of things that are consistent, but there are also some changes that we made that are directly in response to caregiver feedback. So our overview of the summer, this upcoming summer for pre-K and elementary school programming, we're going to continue to run our summer scene enrichment program for any student in the district, kind of like a summer camp model, and that will also be for students entering kindergarten. So those are the little explorers. So entering kindergarten all through entering 6th grade will be eligible to participate in this. And one change that we're making is that we're moving from 4 weeks to 5 weeks. So we're adding an additional week of programming to the summer scene program. We're also going to be adding a collaboration with the Department of Multilingual Education, where we're going to be inviting up to 40 level 1 ESL students to participate in summer programming, where they'll actually be receiving targeted ESL instruction in the morning and then embedded into the summer scene enrichment programming in the afternoon, along with their English-speaking peers. So we're very excited about that. And then theater is on the brain. We are thrilled to bring back Framingham Youth Theater as an amazing summer program that will serve up to 75 students for a 4-week program. So Summer Scene and Little Explorers with our ESL program, we're hoping to serve about 170 students per week for 5 weeks of programming. And then at the secondary level, we heard from a lot of families that the big priority for secondary students, one of them is career exploration opportunities, and then also arts, STEM, and athletics. So we are working on kind of revamping our Flyers Academy. We're still going to be running it for 4 weeks for students entering 7th grade all the way up through 12th grade. But there's going to be interest-based tracks that will allow students to actually choose activities and deep dive into programming that's really interesting to them. And one of our partners that has already been confirmed for the upcoming summer, Fast TV, will be running a 3-week teen filmmaking boot camp that we're very excited about. And then we also have a lot of conversations still being had with department leaders around CTE programming, some, hopefully some robotics programming. So more to come. As well as the Summer Institute, the Credit Recovery Program, and Resiliency for Life. And so another big change, hopefully a welcome change from last year that was based off of the parent data, was that our summer scene programming we're cutting the cost, the weekly cost in half from what it was last year. And we base this on family feedback. We are also going to this is going to be a pay what you can sliding scale. So we're going to offer any family, when they register, can choose families with significant financial need can pay $0 a week, all the way up to $200 a week being the maximum. We also heard from families that the core programming hours that they really needed coverage, the majority of families needed coverage, was from 9 to 4. So we're going to offer that as our core program, and then offer an optional extended day for an additional fee, starting at $0, going up to $100 per week. Again, on that sliding scale, pay what you can. And then Framingham Youth Theater is going to be priced at $250 per week and $1,000 for the month, and that is consistent with what it has been in the past. Secondary programs will be completely free for students. We are just asking that families pay a registration fee. Obviously, any families who have financial need, we will waive that fee. But that's just to really save the spot, ensure that families are brought in and students will attend. And then we just have our pay rates for the summer, which are consistent with last year, plus the 3.5 cost of living increase. And that is all I have for you today. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions? Sounds great. Seeing no hands, I will take a motion. We need a motion to approve this. Thank you for all your work on this, by the way. I'm not trying to rush through, but it's been quite a late night.
Thank you.
We appreciate everything, all the data collection and all the analysis that went into this. Is there a motion to approve the summer programming plan as presented per policy IHCA?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Moshe, seconded by Mr. Labarge. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed, nobody, and abstain, nobody. Okay, 900, it passes. Thank you so much. Approved.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Heather, for coming out tonight or tuning in.
Thank you. Have a nice night. All right. Next up, we're going to Program of Studies. We're going out of order. Discussion and vote on FHS Program of Studies. I will turn it over to the Teaching and Learning Subcommittee Chair, Judy Steyer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Teaching and Learning Subcommittee met on January 12th to hear a presentation from Framingham High School Principal Mark Albright regarding updates to the Program of Studies for the 2026 to 27 school year. The changes reflect a commitment to increasing student access, aligning courses with career pathways, and responding to scheduling needs. Some of the updates include English has streamlined senior course offerings to improve scheduling flexibility and align with graduation requirements. History and social science is adding a new elective on historically significant trials and court cases. Science remain largely consistent, though special education is introducing an applied level physics course to offer a new pathway for science competency. Math is introducing an AP Business with Personal Finance, ACP Exploring Computer Science course, and AP Cybersecurity. Family and Consumer Science is expanding its healthcare offerings to align with the new innovations pathway, creating a full sequence from exploration to a capstone internship. Fine and Performing Arts is combining semester theater courses into a year-long performance workshop to improve skill progression. The early college program continues to expand with partners at Mass Bay and Framingham State, including a new course on climate change. To support our emergent bilingual learners, World Language is expanding Portuguese offerings to meet demand, notably adding dual language courses modeled after our Spanish program to support students coming from Cameron Middle School. ESL is shifting its instructional model to provide more inclusion opportunities for students. This includes discontinuing select ESL content courses like literacy in STEM to focus on targeted English language development or ELD courses combined with a co-teaching model in core academic classes. Finally, it's worth noting that the program of studies reflects the updated graduation requirements based on recent policy updates, policy IKF and IKFE. We believe these changes promote equity and rigorous preparation for all students. The Teaching and Learning Subcommittee voted unanimously to accept the program of study at our meeting earlier this month. I now ask for a motion to accept the 26-27 Framingham High School Program of Studies.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Do you want me to take a vote? You got it?
All those in favor, we raise our hands.
Any discussion?
Any discussion?
Seeing none, roll call vote, or no? Yeah. Or not roll call.
No roll call. Raise your hand.
It's that point of the night.
Yeah, passes.
Thank you, Judy, for your work on this, and thank you for the Teaching Learning Subcommittee. All right, let's see. I know we took that one out of order. Anything, Ms. Ludis, from your report?
I will be incredibly brief. I'm just going to talk about one thing. And Mr. Albright, I just want to say thank you. I know it's been an 18-hour day. Please go home and go to bed. The only thing I'm going to speak about is the preschool and pre-K 5-day implementation working group. We had our first meeting on January 7th. There are 19 members, 15 of which are school-based, plus me and a couple of others from central office. We, after introductions and establishing norms, we reviewed the long-term agenda that I had proposed during the school committee meetings. We made the changes and additions and had a discussion about initial special education evaluations, which we will continue because we ran out of time. Communication was sent the next morning to all staff members, and the school committee received it as well. The next meeting date is February 4th, and the agenda will include more topics on special education, including scheduling of IEP meetings and scheduling of services on the grid. And I will stop there for the evening.
All right, any questions or comments from Ms. Ludis in her report? Okay. All out of order now. All right, Rules and Administration Subcommittee. Okay, let's go for it. It's 10:50.
All right, the subcommittee met last night and we reviewed the suggested edits, which were approved along with additional changing, including not approving the suggested training for curriculum updates in progress as the assistant superintendent provides updates every meeting, adding charting the course for new members to the training list, suggest to try to schedule a team building workshop in the spring for us, additional language about reports and presentations being concise and complete for the general public, and removing the MASC Summer Institute listed at the bottom of the long-term agenda under workshops. Still up for discussion is if a student advisory committee liaison is needed, and a different date for the first meeting in April, as April 1st is Passover, the first night of Passover.
So unless there's any objection, we could just leave April 1st off and reschedule on another date. We'll probably have it maybe a couple months in advance. Personally, I would say Student Advisory Committee liaison, yes, unless there's any objection to that one. What were your thoughts on the committee?
I didn't know if there was one already assigned to the Student Advisory Committee with the students.
I have the list.
And we have Deborah here every week.
Right, but I think there's also benefit to them meeting. Oh, youth council, so there's youth council.
There was two, yeah, Youth Council
Okay,
and
never mind.
Student Advisory, which was two different groups.
So that would be an add.
Well, it'd be a
Or like a-
subtract. Take off the Student Advisory Committee. Who is our liaison now for the Student
Oh,
Advisory?
Ms. Maskell was the former one. So yes, it does exist, so keep it.
Okay, we can keep it, that's fine. That's why it's up for discussion. Any discussion? Anybody? Okay, Ms. Lewis.
Just quickly, I saw that we were considering removing the Pride Proclamation from the list of things that we track. I'm not quite sure what goes into a proclamation, but especially in this political climate, I would love to celebrate our diversity and our students and staff during Pride Month.
I think that was to mirror the city council's removal of it, and that
Correct.
it wasn't a proclamation being an initial statement, whereas it's like.
Correct. So when we had done the proclamation before, it was to follow the city. If somebody has to host that proclamation, somebody has to bring it to the floor, somebody has to create it, and then we present it. So we, as a body, did not initiate it. We supported it. So it's not that we don't support, it's that the proclamation is like a dedication, so.
So still within our capacity to do one way or another, and we can take that up closer to June.
Similar to how resolutions have been added in the past, I would say. Those are just my thoughts. Okay. Adam, you had some comments on this, Mr. Fordberg?
Yeah, thank you for everyone who had, Ms. Mosher for chairing it, and for everyone who had a role in this, and to our executive assistant for another fantastic document. I have some minor feedback, and hopefully we can get it done, because I know we have more things to do before we wrap. If we can't, to me, this is something that if we're meeting next week on budget, we could also continue the conversation. I want to make sure that no one feels rushed adopting our rules for 2 years, in the last 10 minutes of a very long night, focused on the budget. Page 11, minor typo, under the school building committee, it says earlier this year. I feel like we should just delete that because that refers to 3 years ago. On page 12, while well-intended, that recommendation that subcommittee chairs issue a memo summarizing each meeting for the full committee is not allowed by the open meeting law. Our executive assistant already does that by conveying specific motions and results very well, and I would recommend that we just delete that line. Again, while well-intended, members
Where is
cannot.
it, page 12, I'm sorry?
Page 12 in green?
Oh, memo summarizing each meeting, got
Yeah,
it.
members are not even allowed in public packets to write a memo with their own results, so I would recommend deleting that. And then in the long-term agenda, which is fantastic, I'm excited for all those conversations. I'm glad we added the SIFOC appointments back in, but I would also ask that we add in what used to be in there of once a year, the SIFOC members, the chair, and the 3 appointees from the school committee come to a meeting and we talk to them about strategic planning. So I would ask that the long-term agenda bring that back for once a year. And then finally, Ms. Mosher knows that she asked for my advice. Thank you. I do think that we should talk about calling each other by first names at the table. I'm serious. I feel always weird calling Mr. and Miss. I do think it's separate for the mayor and, doctors and superintendents and our guests, but to each other. I'm just Adam. And so, whether we put this in the rules or not, I do think we should have a bigger conversation about that one day, but not a priority. Thank you.
I don't know if we need to make that a rule. I think we can make that a general consensus. I'm Jen, so hey.
And thank you for flagging the open meeting law violation. I actually got that at MASC, and I will have to write them because that is where it came from. one of the presentations. They have their subcommittee's draft memos.
I mean, if it's simply recapping, like, let's say a lot of districts don't have executive assistants, the smaller ones don't.
Right.
If it's simply like, here's a recap of what happened, here's the specific motion in the vote, that's totally fine for a member to do. But there's a gray area that could cross into opinions, and our whole recap of a meeting is different than just a recap of the motion and summaries. And again, since our executive assistant has done this for years,
Right.
I wasn't at the meeting, I'm not a member, so is there a specific problem that we need to address by this language, or can we just continue on with how it's worked well in my mind?
I think for the next 2 years, it probably is something that can be done by our executive assistant. I think working with the minutes would suffice a summary.
Cool, thanks.
Well, I just want to make sure that my colleagues that were on the committee with me agree with that statement. Anybody? Willie? Judy? Brent? Kyle? Since we're all on first name basis. Okay, so I'm fine with that. So my suggestion is, let's hold off if we are going to meet. Let's get these changes done.
Sure.
And then we'll vote.
Got it. All right, next up, warrant signers, we're going to hold off on. As far as the school building committee, I just want to kind of gauge interest. If this is something that can get done in a couple of minutes, no problem with it. Is there anybody who is interested in being on the school building committee as a school committee rep?
Nope.
I see 2 hands, so we're going to postpone it for another meeting. Okay, so there's 2 minutes. We'll hear about from both of you why you're interested in serving, what do you feel the purpose of the vision of this project is, or say a little bit about something, how you foresee the potential impacts. I'm not going to have us do that tonight. So since there are more than one person is interested in the position, we will not do this tonight. Subcommittee reports are up next. Finance and operations, including bills and payroll. Mr. LaRoche, would you like me to come back to you?
Okay. Ready for the report. Okay, for the warrant report, we have $5,065,467.24 and a payroll total of $17,576,423.91 on the dates of December 22nd, January 2nd, January 12th, and January 26th. Thank you.
All right, any other subcommittee reports? Subcommittee liaison reports, approval of gifts. Oh, sorry, Judy, go ahead.
Framingham Public Schools is a member district of the Education Cooperative, or better known as TEC. TEC has asked that their quarterly reports be shared with school committee members and listed on an agenda to ensure that they are received per DESI's review process for the collaborative. This quarter's update is located in your packet and on the website.
Thank you for reading that. All right, approval of gifts and minutes. Gifts, early education, high school, fine and performing arts, athletics, and district items. Items include clothing for resource room, item for staff appreciation lunch, donations for art projects and installations, spring musical, FHS girls ice hockey program, and office furniture. Is there a motion to accept?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Moshe, seconded by Mr. Labarge. All those in favor, any discussion, sorry? Just keep your, all those in favor, raise your hand. Okay. Next is a motion to approve advertising for the donations for the Beyond FHS Your Story and Photographs project, spring musical, and Bridges in Bloom art installation projects in the form of logos behind being included in marketing materials. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Shepherd, seconded by
Mr. Labarge.
Mr. Labarge. Sorry, I didn't hear. Any discussion?
Madam Chair, logos from who?
I don't know, logos. Form of logos. Let me look back in the packet materials.
I didn't see in the packet, which is why I asked. Sorry, I know we're out of time. I don't want to approve logos without knowing that they are in alignment with the district's rules and regulations around logos. Thank you.
Mr. Lynch, do you have a comment on that? I don't have anything more specific than logos.
Okay, the logos were from,
It's the logo of who gave the donations.
yep, the donor was Framingham LLC for the Beyond FHS Your Story. Logo was included in marketing materials. I don't know exactly what the logo is. I can look it up. And then the Framingham High School Hall of Fame Bridges and Bloom Art installation project, also logo included in marketing materials.
As long as it was vetted by the district, that's
It
great,
was.
because there was no marketing proposal in a memo or anything. I just wanted to make sure we weren't rushing this one, but I'm comfortable based on your recommendation and that assessment. Thank you.
All right, all those in favor, raise your hand. Motion to approve. Okay, 9-0. Minutes, to approve the open session minutes of November 19th, 2025.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Moshe, seconded by Mr. Labarge. Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand. All right, 9-0. Adjournment. I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Moshe, seconded by Mr. Labarge. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor, raise your hand. 9-0. This meeting is adjourned at 11:02 p.m.